It's just so energetic and it's so powerful and colorful, and it just makes me really happy. And so no matter what collection I do, it always goes back to that. And so that's why you see all this colorful prints and all these bold colors, you know. I feel women wearing it, it just makes them so extreme.
My source of inspiration, and that only has to be from God. So I always give credit to Him for that. And of course, my culture is very influenced in my design. I've been designing since I was 8 years old. Even before that, my mom would tell me into modern design mixed with vintage designs, mixed with traditional looks, and just tie it all together in a bow to create a true essay as an Abor couture piece.
Hello, my name is Daniel Mofo. I'm the founder and designer of Don Morphy, a men's luxury custom suit clothing in Dallas, Texas. Fashion is color. In the past, men were all very scared of, the colors. They were used to the blacks, the grays. But now, if you look at fashion, men wear almost bolder colors than women, You see men in red suits, men in yellow suits, men in pink suits. So for me, fashion is color. African for me means community. It means living together. It means living together.
Hello and welcome. Looking forward to having you join me here in the studio. It's been a difficult week for Nigerians in general, the art world, the music world, but most of all, the loss of our elegant stallion, Onyeka Onwenu, is such a devastating loss, and we all met this news with shock. But Onyeka Onwenu has been such a wonderful gift to Nigerian music industry, to the art world generally. She's been a politician, a journalist, and she's an author, which is why it's also very, very dear to the literary bar. And that's why we are giving her a very special call out, because she's one of us. She's so beloved. But significantly, that more than anything resonates with us even at this time. Onyeka Onwenu, popularly called the Elegant Stallion, was so graceful and elegant in her delivery. Nigeria is not even sure where it's going. Onyeka's passing also calls to mind this song that she hopes will unite us more than anything. I remember the video of One Love where people were fighting and all that. And even in the lyrics, she says, we don't need all of this, no more fighting. Let's live in peace. Let us come together in one love. And let this that she has preached with her life and her music be the most important lyric or soundtrack to the event as is unfolding right now in Nigeria. So it is with so much love that I say, thank you, Onyeka Onwenu, for being the amazing legend that you have been. Thank you for the music, and thank you for the memories. Good night, Elegant Stallion. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll go into the book proper. Before I go into the book selection and poetry for this week, I want to share a bit about a conversation I had with my friend Baba. Baba is an elderly but very special friend of mine. Baba told me that words were the sole currency of our human existence. The words we say to people and the words we use with ourselves. Ultimately, words create and shape the quality of our lives and relationships. Imagine when you hear the words, I love you, and juxtapose it with, I hate you. How would that make you feel? Over the years, men like Hitler, Pol Pot, Mobutu Sese Seko, Idi Amin have used vile and hateful rhetoric to destroy the fabric of humanity. In these modern times, rebel leaders have used divisive language to rally their supporters to unleash mayhem in their communities. Rwanda's genocide, Boko Haram's insurgency, cult clashes, political violence, and brigandage. Words also act as a soothing balm over painful experiences when we empathize and sympathize with kind and carefully chosen words. As kids, we learn that with you. The Four Agreements by Don Miguel, USA alone. It has been on the New York Best publication. Don Miguel reveals the source of self-limiting beliefs that rob us of joy and create needless suffering. Based on Toltec wisdom, the Four Agreements can rapidly transform our lives to a new experience of freedom, true happiness, and love. This book is written in a simple language and is an easy read. In these difficult times, when we suffer from mental breakdown and self-inflicted pressures to meet up with societal expectations, the 4 Agreement becomes even more important as a personal guidebook to help us navigate through the murky waters of unrealistic expectations of ourselves and others. After the break, I'll read a short excerpt from this amazing book. Okay, welcome back. So now I'm going to take you through the 4 agreements that will help you to carry on with your relationship, especially your relationship with yourself. A lot of the pressures that we feel in this world is because of how we talk to ourselves. We're saying it to ourselves. When we also say terrible things to people, we have decided to embark on a journey of personal destruction and destroying other people, because the words we say to other people defines us more than we know. So the first agreement says to be impeccable with your words, using the words you speak against yourself or to gossip about other people. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. We know what we're going through at this time, and as we're trying to call on people to come out, destroy, fight, and all that, we are only hurting ourselves. If we use our words to invite people to wonder, when they had their genocide, the Hutus and the Tutsis came together. The people who were spearheading this fight were calling their to suddenly become a cockroach. How words as a clarion call to destroy have already gone on this errand that you cannot call back. Insult yourself just to make someone else look bad, and don't insult other people just because you want to feel better than them. When you're not impeccable with your words, it means that you have sinned, because the opposite of impeccability is peccability, and peccability means sin, to sin. So when you are in each other is everything that we have from society. So be impeccable with your words, the things you say to people, and you don't have to internalize it. It says more about them because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own. Don't be the victim of needless suffering. So somebody says you're a fool. You know that you're not foolish. Did they do any tests in your head to know if you were foolish? So why would you take that? Maybe the person is going through a really difficult time, and from the bitterness they feel in their heart, that is why they are coming up with these terrible words. Why would you take what they are saying personally? So do not take some of the things that people do want it. If somebody says something to you that is not for you, don't accept it, just walk away. As they say in the Bible, shake your feet and just move away from those people. So don't take whatever people do personally. Their background may have been twisted, or really they have personal issues and they're just trying to project how they feel. To avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama, you assume you make an ass of you. I was at an event on Sunday and I left my phone in the car. For the next 4 or 5 hours, I didn't have my phone. And all the people who were calling me at this particular time couldn't get me have my phone. And I spent the next day apologizing to, would you assume, and then cause a lot of drama. Because please ask, please can you clarify this for me? Please, could you say it differently? But most of all, we are doing 1 or 2 things just because of you. The issues happening now, people are assuming the government is saying, so the marathon. But I practiced and I made it. One time I did about 26 kilometers, but this time around, hopes, and they're carrying their hopes and their dreams. So I always do the image you have of yourself. Forget all of that, this image that didn't work for you, and try to see how you can start afresh. Every day is a new opportunity. Every day you have is 24 hours for you to make it right. If you're going through certain issues, I urge you to get this book. It's actually by my bedside since Baba gave me this book. And thank you, Baba, for this. It is truly I've talked a lot, right? So we'll talk a little bit about literature, still on the same theme. Community in Nigeria. He was a journalist, playwright, and scholar/critic. He wrote essays on African poetry. He died on the 13th of October, 2020. The Casualty is one of the most important poems that any country that has experienced war or is attempting and properties of the Nigerian Biafran Civil War, to be precise. At the end, he lets us all know that violence and carnage unleashed during wars, insurrection, make all of us casualties and victims of man's inhumanity to man. Let me share some excerpts from this remarkable poem that should be taught to everyone, even as some people still hold romantic notions towards armed conflict. The casualties. The casualties are not only those who are dead, they are well out of it. The casualties are not only those who are wounded, though they await burial by installment. The casualties are not only those who have lost persons or properties, hard as it is. The casualties are not only those who started a fire and now cannot put it out. Thousands are burning that had no say in the matter. The casualties are not only those who, escaping the shattered shell, become prisoners in a fortress of falling walls. The casualties are many and a good number, well out as they hunt abroad. They do not see the funeral piles at home eating up the forest. The drums overwhelm the guns because we cannot hear each other speak. The extent of wrong on all sides. We are characters, now and rumors, the looters for office and wares, fearful every day the owners may return. We are all casualties, all sagging as are. The cases celebrated for Kwashiorkor. In the casualty, it's so obvious and we no go green. We must. At the end of the day, when all has been said and done and we take to the streets to exhibit our strength, we lose. We all have the ringside seat to the after effects of violence. I use violence in place of war, in place of insurrection, because when people are in directly or indirectly, in the casualties, we have seen the picture written in words that describe so eloquently, terming, but they are not there. They do not see the piles of bodies. In recent times, some of us that are saying, please let us talk, let us embrace die, come out and say, oh, the older ones in our generation, they are just people to fight. I told a young man recently, I said, my uncle was 15 years old when he fought in the Biafran War. 15. There was no, at 72, he is still traumatized. When Ojukwu and Gowon, thousands of were so heavily laden with hate, with vitriol, that we could not call back. The words had gone on the streets and set destruction in motion. So I am telling, now that history is coming back to school, that poems such as this should be taught in dialogue fields when you refuse. But I am begging one and all that let us come together as Nigerians and fix these problems. It is better to talk than to war. They say it's better. Let's always opt for peace and dialogue. Let's eschew words that are inflammatory, because it's only in peace that we can enjoy freedom as a nation. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this, some of Onyeka Onwenu's one.
Everybody has a day when the sun stays away. Take heart in a new tomorrow. Living more love between makes for a brighter day. Never need worry, let one love set you free. One love, keep us together. Living in a world, keep us together. One love can set us day. Good love is all we need to choose. One love, keep us together. Living in a world, it's a struggle to stay alive. One love, keep us together. Living in a world, it's a struggle to stay alive. You never need words, no, no. Don't you worry, one love. Somebody tell me, oh, I do the
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustv. Live here.
Key reforms introduced and implemented by the Governor Babajide's economy, and the Sanwo-Olu's government has been proactive in implementing business-friendly regulations and constantly reviewing ease of doing business policies to lessen challenges associated with new business registration and obtaining permits. The digitalization of services has equally eliminated a new push for an aggressive investment. Is a Greater Lagos vision. Lagos is indeed Rising, I Am Love, Oyedoku. Welcome.
This is Lagos, the heartbeat of Nigeria.
We're a Lot Mayor's show, and it's an opportunity for us to just depict what Lagos is all about. And it's only at an event like this, competing with other bigger cities.
In a historic moment, Lagos made its inaugural.
Lagos is a big mega city on its own right now, but we want to make it one of the international financial centers ready for bigger business.
Lagos isn't just open for business. It's a gateway to the future, embracing innovation and welcoming investors from around the globe. We invite the world to witness Lagos's dynamic projects.
Lagos is both the Lagos, the Nigerian and the African story, and be able to let other parts of the world know who we are, understand our culture, understand that we're the center of.
So the whole idea, right, is for us to be able to let the world, get them to know what is happening in Lagos. But GDP of Lagos is actually bigger than Senegal. As a little sub-national, it's very big. I think a lot of people need to know what is happening in Lagos, you know, and how we can use the Lagos story, you know, to sort of like tell the African story.
Ease of doing business. Governor Sanwo-Olu meets investors. Governor Sanwo-Olu calls for collaboration with stakeholders to tackle trends. Health insurance plan. Sanwo-Olu launches Ilera Eco Standard Jara. Details of Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of the 3rd African Social Impact Summit presentations a question and answer investors ready to sign memorandum. The event was aimed at highlighting creative economy, technology, agriculture.
Event brought together a diverse array of stake executives, industry leaders, and active economic outlook driven by its growing population and the development of
environment in which they found themselves in. So for our leadership profile and the minimum we can do here is to ensure that we are committed at ensuring that we do not reverse the trajectory of the consistent and continuous growth that we've seen in the state. In the last 5 years, that we can continually, encourage, even in very difficult times, our investors to be able to have the conversations of de-risking, what could be their issues, what could be their concerns, and being able to give them that comfort, and that enabling their own role, and will ensure that the investments are not only secure, but they can also be guaranteed of some minimum return that will expect that we should be guided. Mr. President, he's equally committed. We can tell you that clearly. He's equally committed, and we know who to find ourselves right now. And the countrywide, global growth strategy, that he has set for us. And so, that's what we're doing here, and that's what we're about.
In local markets and foster a business climate.
The moment you are no longer able to determine policies, right? You've got to have policy environment where there's predictability, there's clarity, and I think Lagos has done a pretty decent job of providing this policy environment. The other thing that then the policy affects everyone in the same way, but ultimately it comes to the community, because in the absence of respect, the communication that would lead for event like the Africa Social Impact Summit and of brought in the investors leading to this conversation. So yes, without respect, there is no trust. Without trust, there is no investment.
What I'm taking home is the fact that you can trust Lagos for particular government is over and done, policy somersault, there's no continuity. But if you're investing in Lagos, you're convinced that the continuity plan is already in place to unity trust. Lagos is building trust in the hearts of investors, and of course bringing people together to review these opportunities directly from critical stakeholders, in the governor's cabinet.
and Lagos to a reasonable extent on a scorecard of 100. Lagos State is as secure as Lagos. Investment is safe. It's necessary for investors to come in. And then you look at connectivity. Some of the biggest technology companies in West Africa, some of the biggest technology companies in Africa are situated in Lagos. Lagos has the right connectivity. Lagos has the biggest tech companies across works. The governor spoke extensively about water transportation, our water networks, our road, our rails, electricity, our ports. Lagos has some of the biggest ports in West Africa and in Africa. They are all functional. They are all working. So these are some of the indices, exchange rates. That is a circumstance it's a countrywide, it's a nationwide problem, even if you're not dealing with the exchange rates, but there are other challenges that exist. So to a reasonable extent, Lagos has a lot of its challenges under control. And like we've always said, investors would always get their return on investment if they come to Lagos.
It's about time that we see a lot of philanthropic, long tenure development, investment in our environment. It's not about us today. It's about building for another 20, 30, 40 years. That should be part of a call that we have now. And it's only when you have this kind of committed investment that you can
promising investment opportunities in transportation, tourism, health insurance, and waterways, affirming the state government's commitment to advancing ambitious development plans for these key sectors.
Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has reaffirmed his administration's unwavering commitment to the Themes Plus development agenda, which aims to create an enabling environment for businesses to grow and thrive in Lagos State. The governor stated this in his keynote address at the 9th Lagos Corporate Assembly.
Gathered in this hall are members of Lagos State's business community, comprising chief executive officers, CEOs, captains of industry, and leaders of business membership organizations for the 9th edition of the annual BOS Meets Business Community event themed Unpacking Barriers to Ease of Doing Business, Accelerating Business Growth. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu was represented by his deputy, Hamzat Obafemi. He commended the resilience of the business
agenda. We have initiated numerous policy reforms to facilitate business operations in Lagos. We are simplifying regulatory processes, improving infrastructure, and leveraging technology to streamline interaction between businesses and government agencies. Our goal, therefore, is to minimize bureaucratic blockages and create a seamless experience for all businesses operating in our state. A case in point was when the Ministry of Commerce, Cooperative Trade and Investment, in collaboration with the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PEBEC, worked to align the interest of a state agency with those of a platinum PEBEC on the negotiating table in a spirit of fairness and equity. This collaborative approach is how we aim to continue working to foster partnership between states. We see this assembly as a crucial platform for public-private dialogue, where we collectively identify challenges, discuss solutions, and chart a course for sustainable economic growth and development. This is because we understand and recognize the power of stakeholder engagement and the importance of providing a listening ear to the business communities. Our resolve is to make this assembly a formidable platform for public-private collaboration, ensuring that your voices are heard and your concerns are addressed promptly. We are determined to turn the feedback we receive from you into actionable policies that will further ease the business environment in the state. Dear guests, I must commend the resilience of the business community despite the numerous challenges earlier highlighted, including the current global economic downturns confronting the operations. We have continued to innovate, adapt, and contribute significantly to the growth of our state. Your tenacity and entrepreneurial spirit are the bedrock upon which Lagos' economic success is built. So I assure you of our continued support as our administration is unreservedly committed to providing the necessary resources, infrastructure, and policies that will ensure your businesses not only survive but thrive. We will continue to engage with you, listen to your needs, and implement reform that will foster an environment necessary for your businesses to grow. Therefore, we assure you all that wheels are common and collective progress. So as we gather here together, let us all reaffirm our collective commitments to overcoming the barriers to ease doing business in our state.
Commissioner, Ministry of Commerce, spoke on steps taken by the Ministry.
Cooperative Trade and Investment, MCCTI, is in the process of constituting an ease of doing business team that will be tasked with interfacing with stakeholders in the business community via a one-stop shop virtual interface. This will be technology-driven to meet the demand of the highly digitized local and global investors community. The virtual one-stop shop interface will be enabled with robust connectivity to strategic global business gateways and to enhance the state of the global business communities. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as the nation's commercial hub and economic powerhouse, we recognize that a wholesome operating environment is key to job creation, poverty eradication, and overall economic development. And Mr. Deputy Governor, Dr. Kadri Obafemi Hamzat, will stop at nothing to sustain and further build on the current milestones achieved. Road transportation, building construction, wholesale and retail, telecommunications, financial institutions, and real estate, as an implementation at the federal level, including relevant local, international institutions alike. We will continue to collaborate with bilateral and multilateral chambers of commerce, and it will be much more easier.
As in the tradition, participants had ample opportunity to get responses to some burning issues.
February this year. This is June.
The Fourth Mainland Bridge will build it. It was advertised internationally and locally. About, I think, 15 companies bidded. It was narrowed down to one. Our financial people, I think, was PICMA. We thought to look at the sector. Okay, so the process is ongoing, but so they need to also raise finance.
Interpreted as a clear message. Affordable and efficient healthcare services for Lagos residents. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu virtual booths installed across the state to improve health of grassroots stakeholders. Speaking in health insurance for Lagos State and Nigeria, and reforms to make healthcare more accessible and affordable. Heroical health initiatives and medical bills that many residents face. Governor Sanwo-Olu recently signed an executive order to bolster the new health initiatives. He now encourages all Lagos residents to enroll in the Lagos State Health Scheme.
After the commissioning, and you've heard all of the stories of what expand the reach of Lashman's Health, market men and women who usually find it, a long trip to the various hospitals or health. This first line health service in different informal businesses and clusters around, they will now have this next to them. I urge you to protect and maintain these facilities for the use of the community. I also want to call on other LGAs and LCD to support Lashman by facilitating the installation of more
The Sanwo-Olu administration's commitment to health initiatives.
So we have included things like eye surgery. We have added more diagnostic services and drugs. Negotiations to people. Though we have the number, I think the pensioners are about 30,000 plus, and we are going to provide healthcare for them free of charge for 1 year. So the equity fund is going to serve the purpose.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the Greater Lagos Vision on Plus TV Africa.
They differ from generation to generation. A person's career path is described as the work they do and the roles they hold as they climb up the ladder. Before the millennium, career paths for many was simply linear, which could be a person working at the same organization and group. Security and staying power were the cornerstone of this career path. However, with modern technology, a person's career path can be as multifaceted woven and work at different roles in their journeys, till they retire. But for millennials and Gen Z, the workplace has changed and so has the career structure. Being able to move from one job to another might signal a person's employability and adaptability. Baby boomers tend to believe that working long hours is what defines success and value face-to-face interactions with co-workers. In contrast, millennials believe that innovation and flexibility in employment, wages, and inequalities, from remote work to telework, increased for some, such as knowledge workers, but not for frontline workers. Teleworking can lead to a higher productivity and lower operating costs for companies. Work is increasingly flexible and decentralized. Working from home or out of a workspace is favored by many because of the flexibility that comes with it. Millennials and Gen Zs prefer flexible work schedules and part-time hours so that they can balance their work and life compared to older generations who prefer security.
That social element at work, a lot of people need it. Me personally, parties, I like making friends, but I also like keeping to myself. So at work, I'm not the friendliest. I would smile, I would say hi, but I don't need to. So it depends on your personality and what you need. For me, work from home works a lot for me because I get to spend time with my family. I'm always in the house with my partner, and that really
increase the reach of your events or business. 005719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@.
Yes, it's been a long run educating us on the menace of drug abuse in our society. And is that being said, it takes an organization with a big hat to be a Dr. Dokun Adedeji, the DG in the ship of Kadam in the last 26 years. And today, he'll be letting us into some of the shocking testimonies, some of the great stories that they've had in the facility, and of course, how you can be part of this laudable project.
Brew water. Awa.
It is said that over 50 million Nigerians abuse drugs. Retired Brigadier General Buba Marwa said over 50 million Nigerians abuse drugs nationwide.
Having a 40.3 million population of drug use, attitude will continue to remain low.
He further added that the recent survey done by the United Nations put the country's drug users at 14.3 million Nigerians between the ages of 15,
almost triple the global average of 5.5%. Hence, by 2019, it was obvious that a drug abuse epidemic was looming.
Just be conservative, will not be less than 25%. And that is very
every Nigerian and promote a call to action. The Redeemed Christian Church of God, a Christian body with a goal of winning souls to Christ, was one of such organization touched by this predicament and saw it a clarion call which inspired the founding of the non-governmental organization called Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry, or CADAM for short. Founded in 1991 to cater to the treatment and rehabilitation of drug addicts, it started its residential rehabilitation with the construction and dedication. Pastor Mrs. Folu Adeboye, wife of Pastor Enoch Adeboye, the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, serve as both patron and matron of the organization.
If we don't do it, it means we are not grateful. Don't let the effort of everybody here be wasted over you. Seize the moment, seize the love God has for you, and retrace back your steps to how God made you, because whatever God has not planted in your life, the Lord of hosts through this awareness, and I believe you will not be a wasted person.
I was a parish pastor. So God, this program had the children of these affluent people were involved in drug abuse, and some of them found their way to the church.
Services, with a mission to identify, prevent, and combat the multiple causes and effects of drug abuse through the development of effective programs and services.
Then was to go to churches or go to homes or go to hospitals to go pray for people who have drug problems or issues like that. Until I joined in 1992, and in the process we found that it's just not as easy as that. I remember particularly when we were talking to these people every Sunday, we would bring them food and give them help. That coming to pray for us and all the rest is not enough. That the moment you leave, you begin to smoke again and we sleep there. So it was then your continent said, why don't you go find a place where you can put us in rehabilitation in 1996.
These facilities are open to all, not minding social class, professional group, religion, ethnicity, or nationality.
Here in Kadam, we do drug rehabilitation. We do not discriminate, even though it is a church-based rehabilitation center. We take people from all walks of life, because drug is what I call equal opportunity affliction. So we take people from all religious background and all social backgrounds from all over the Federation.
It also accepts referrals from families and friends, partners, drug agencies, medical and healthcare services, schools, social services, and voluntary agencies. Kadam provides 3 basic services which vary from 1 year period to 3 months. They are namely prevention, rehabilitation, and a problematic drug substance user who have to go through a free treatment for 1 year period, and the second type being which runs for 3 months for experimental occasional users, students and workers with drug substance issues. An admission for the 1 year program commences from October every year. While that all must get involved, as this represents a clear and present date by continuing to support noble establishments who have taken it upon them addiction.
Kadam rule of people before. Once you see someone, the first thing you come to your head is, how will I extort money from that person? That's the first thing that comes. But
17 years ago. But thank God for my age and alcohol. And really, it almost took my life away. And drugs depart children from parents and parents from children. So I just decided on a very fateful day, I decided to get something called Kadam. So since I've been to Kadam, I came here in Kadam, I look rugged, I look like someone that is insane. But thank God for me, my life today, I'm okay, and I want to thank God, I want to thank Kadam, I want to thank everybody.
It takes an organization. Dr. Adedeji, tell us, how did this journey start?
It's a fairly long journey now. If you look at the founder of the ministry.
Interesting. So years down the line, how has it been?
Oh, as beautiful as it's been exacting as well. What do I mean by that? You know, when you go through history and then you take them through a period of a year to recondition themselves and to start life again, particularly in the area of personnel and the area of funds as well. It takes them, because these were people that have led home for years, who's never had any family member wanting to relate with them. So we know that there'll be nobody to pay for them, and the church took it upon itself as a CSR responsibility to offer that to the society. And But it's been well worth it, no matter how exasperating or frustrating it can be. It's been well worth it.
Now, you've been coordinating CADAM in the last 26 years. What has been your most shocking experience?
Quite honestly, and we are just finished speaking to the users, and then somebody hailed me. And I turned back. The way he hailed me reminded me of when I was in college, in University of Ife. So I said, how would that be? The moment I turned, it was a guy that we were in school together. He's a lawyer. And then I looked at him. He said, Doxy, can you remember me? I remembered him. He lives in the joint. Blow. And then thereafter, I began to see people of same major issue to deal with there. That it wasn't really the issue of motor park boys or derelicts in the society. It was up to the mighty as well. And so for me,
it was really shocking. Now, coming to up to the mighty, I mean, I want to believe that some of these people that you bring into the facility would recount their experiences. What is the most common reason?
Commonality is usually experimentation. Going to friends, I went to visit with a friend, there was a party, and then I ate in my friend's house and I took a piece of cake or I took a drink. And also those, oh, I love that. What did you do? And then again, so it depends, but then you then go into society, which many times hinge on parental indiscretion or parental neglect or those kind of issues.
Interesting. So it's a faith-based organization, Do you scrutinize who comes in there? Is it open to everybody?
It's open to everyone. You see, the issue of drug that I also want people to reflect on is the fact that it has no respect for anyone. Has no respect for your status, has no respect for your age, has no respect for your religion, ethnicity, or nationality. You come in there, then there has to be a spiritual bent to our training. And people accept it because when you go into drug, you down in the gutters. The only thing you want is out. So whatever can give you the out and give you the opportunity of starting your life again is just as well. So it's open.
Interesting. We'll be speaking with Dr. Adedeji and it's up to society. Stay tuned.
My name is Dokun Adedeji. I used to practice medicine, as I said to people, but right now I'm the Director General of CADAM, Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry. And what I like to say to young people is never start drug at all. It's self-destructive. So the best thing is stay off it and leave.
Drug Abuse television show put together by Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry and under the auspices of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. Today, we're looking at CADAM to the rescue, what this faith-based organization is doing to rescue people that have been enmeshed in this menace of drug abuse. And of course, what you've seen there. And I want us to bring it down now. How do you people go about getting this people? I'm trying to avoid calling them, inmates or victims and all of that. Yes. How do you get them? And would it be off the hook to say how much does it cost to rehabilitate one person?
Right. Thank you very much. Initially when we started, we were going to the joints because that was like an introduction in there. Then one day they said to us, hey, we like what you do. Why don't you take us out of here? Away from here, away from Lagos, and so that we can get a new life. That was what stimulated having a residential rehabilitation center, which was in 1996. When they saw what had happened to the first set of people we brought, up to today, I think the first set of people we brought was about 10. About 6 of them today are still living drug-free, and that was many years ago. And so when people began to bring their people, so hardly now if we go to the joint, it's just 3 weeks ago, when we were to take a new set of beneficiaries, in Abuja Center, we saw 55 people. Benin in Port Harcourt, we saw about 108. In Lagos, close to 300 people. And we needed 100 people for the bed space we have. So you can begin to understand and imagine. And bring you and say, I want my son, I want my husband. The person must say, I need help. And I want to
because we also have people that would hide under the guise of wanting help just to see where to eat, drink, wake up, and then feel good. We also have people that they'll go in there for rehabilitation. When they go back to their old life. So how do you deal with that? More like an after service or something? Aftercare.
Let me take it from the first part. True. When we take about 100 people, initial hunger to want to leave is there. But one thing we found out as well is when they come, after about a week, when there's no more source of supply, and Johnson starts, that is a withdrawal set of number, like a supplementary list, that can replace them. But in terms of people going back, you see, I like to say this and emphasize it. People think rehabilitation finishes because by the time we're in the process, we have what we call family forum, where parents come, family members come, we tell them this is the progress of this person, and this is the... And when they finish, they don't give any of those things. And then so the person goes back home, there's nothing to do, and then they remind him of what he had done before. Money got lost, we don't know who Hakuku taking it, without telling him he's taking it, or they say, you've started again, you've started to see your friend, are you going back?
Go back. Now, what kind of relationship do you enjoy with the NDLEA and the NOA?
Oh, we work relationship, they come to us, we go to them for...
We're talking about having a lot in your hands. Have you been beaten before by these people?
You know, look, I'm glad you asked me the question. I can tell you this. These guys are probably one of the finest people you can meet.
Wow.
You know, there's something in psychiatry called defense mechanism. They do that just to frighten you. They are just like normal you. And people think, oh, these are people, they're terrible people, they come area, but we walk in their midst. No one had ever attacked us, not in any of the joints. The moment we go, Kadam has come, oh, that's this person, that is, because there's hardly any joint I haven't been in Lagos.
So you go to all the joints, you tend to want to act like them to get them?
Oh, sometimes when I dress in shorts or jeans.
You take some of this?
No, I don't. I've never drank in my life. I've never
talked to you.
And look, honestly, and I'm serious about this, they're innocent, they're good, but other times come when they need the fix, they can do a few things wrong. And I say to people, a moment of misadventure should not define a man's life.
So true.
We all make mistakes. We need second chances. That's why I can stay there today. I was a rascal. But if God can redeem me and make me what I am today, why not another person? So that is an extension of grace that I have enjoyed to them.
Interesting. So let's talk about the facility. How big is the facility? And do you have volunteers that help you? Because it could really be overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. It is. We have two centers, actually.
Okay.
One is in Abeokuta. That one was donated to us, the Mojisola Balogun Rehabilitation, donated to us by a Nigerian woman.
Oh.
Facilities provided. She gave to us everything, and she signed off the papers.
Wow.
So in that place, we take in undergraduates that are rusticated from their universities. And we also take in workers, we take in graduates, people with masters, with doctorate, who fell into drug in the office, who can't spend a year. And because that center caters to occasional users, not chronic users, occasional users, experimental users, so we give them 3 months to clean, and then they do very well. The other center is in Ekpe. We have about 5.1 hectares of land.
Oh, the biggest.
Big, massive. But as massive as it is, we are just beginning to understand that the facilities are not enough to cater to the issues we have. I just told you, we wanted to care about 100 people. We had to interview about...
Is there effect? I mean, sometimes you're doing stuff and you're supposed to be seeing the numbers dwindling. Or
you buy a gadget to test for goiter, an increased number is not. The number was latent, but because there was something now to show you the reality of it, it begins to appear as if... Look, one thing that we have been careless about in this country is the issue of substance abuse, and I'm glad that Jeremiah came. UNODC did a survey in 2018 and published the figures. The percentage used in Nigeria prevalence rate is 14.3%. That was a microcosm of what the reality is.
So you're saying in the continent we're more?
No,
Nigeria?
Even in the world.
Wow.
Because if the global prevalence use is 5.6%,
okay,
and Nigeria's one is 14.3%, translating to we are using drugs, and that is just because the people
you support what you're doing.
Like yesterday, we need partners. Why do I say so? We need money. To cater for one beneficiary in a month, it costs us about 100,000.
Wow.
Because we clothe them, we feed them, we take them to hospital when there's a need, and the infrastructure, sports center, staff quarters, and some other things like that. Even addition.
For...
I'll give you one in Port Harcourt, we'll be delighted. But the challenge will then be the maintenance and the sustenance.
Personnel.
Because it needs a huge dose of empathy.
So training too. The need for training and all of that.
Absolutely. This is
a whole lot of work in your hands. But you're
work.
doing fantastic. And we hope that drive will continue. So at least we, prune down on the numbers as the day go by. Thank you very much, Dr. Adedeji, for all you do in the 6 years. Of course, they call for more partners to drive this advocacy. And you can do that by following all of the social media platforms you have on your screen and even call the phone numbers. This episode of Partners, NDLEA and the National Orientation Agency. You're still watching regardless. Louisa Olani is my name. Until we come your way again next week, stay away from drugs.
Increase the reach of 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing.
Hello and welcome. I'm Emmanuel Olubobokwa. This is the news update. Thousands of Nigerians have marched in Abeokuta and Accra on Saturday, marking the 10th day of minority songs to express their grievances. Hashtag End Bad Governance in Nigeria aimed to and security agents clamping down on protesters and journalists. Human rights activist Omoyele Sowore confirmed the violent attack on protesters, including the killing of a teenage boy. Now the protest. The Delta State Police Command has confirmed the release of Joan Oyemache, a former member of the House of Representatives who was abducted on July 30th, 2024 after gunmen killed a police officer and driver. Now, Oyemache was abducted from a church in Asaba, Delta State after gunmen killed a police officer and driver. Now, Benue Governor Aisant Alia has condemned a recent attack on Ayati village in Okum Lokigam area where over 60 people of strong security. Alia called on security agencies to improve surveillance and ensure vulnerable communities are not left unguarded. He also condoled with the families of those who lost their loved ones and assured the people that his administration would continue to explore discreet and open measures to ensure Sankara retraces a path of peace and lives happily again. Now, the Patriots, a non-partisan group of Nigerians, has now called on President Bola Tinubu to convene a National Constituent Assembly to create a People's Democratic Constitution. Former Commonwealth Secretary General Emeka Anyaoku, who led the patriots to the presidency, emphasized the need for our people's democratic constitution. Now, Anyaoku cited the disintegration of the Yugoslavia and also Czechoslovakia due to their lack of a federal constituency. The constitution, I beg your pardon. The patriots believe national unity, insecurity, poverty, and hunger necessitate the establishment of a constituent assembly to produce a new constitution.
Nigeria needs a new legitimate Nigeria People's Democratic Constitution. That the present constitution is illegitimate and cannot deal effectively with the myriad challenges facing this country. In other words, that our present governance system needs Nigeria's founding fathers who negotiated and agreed the 1960-1963 constitutions.
With thinking and tinkering with the economic reform. That's my first priority. Once I get that reform in place as soon as possible, then I look at constitutional review as recommended by you and other options of learned minds in this country should take into account the need for our nation to make progress.
Former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo has urged moral rearmament among leaders and citizens to achieve the country's goals. He warned that Nigeria is on the brink of explosion due to numerous challenges and urged courageous and decisive action. Obasanjo met with 6 House of Representatives members who are co-sponsoring bills for single-term presidencies and rotational to a solid foundation.
Our main problem is ourselves. And until we take care of ourselves, it doesn't matter. We may have one term of 4 years, one term of 6 years, one term of 7 years. If it's the same people and the same mentality and the same way we do things, it won't change. So our beginning is ourselves, to my mind. Yes, system, yes, democracy, we have to rethink democracy. Most of them should be behind the bar. And that is the truth. Some should even be in the gallows. You are what you are. I am what I am because I'm a Nigerian. Those people out there are Nigerians. They are entitled. So let us look at things that way. For me, that is what we have to do. And as I've said, and I will keep saying it, we are all sitting on a keg of gunpowder, all of us. If we continue to do what we are doing, which is disregarding the interest of the common man.
Now, Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State has accused hoodlums from Yobe, Jigawa and Kano of destroying the government lodge and Katagum local government secretariats during the #EndBadGovernance protest. The governor relaxed the 24-hour curfew on the Katagum local government area after the protesters caused property destruction. He said the Bauchi government would consider granting a pardon to hoodlums arrested in connection with the protest, warning that anyone arrested again would face the full wrath of the law. He expressed dismay over the destruction and warned against future law and order breakdowns.
So it would appear we have to go back to the drawing board and redesign and build this secretariat, inshallah. And we will do it because it is the seat of administration of the local government and it is the second biggest town in Bauchi State.
Moving on, the Nigeria Police Force has a confirmed report of a raid on the Nigerian Labour Congress National Secretariat, the Labour House in Abuja's Central Business District. The police stated that a prime criminal suspect was traced to a rented shop within the building, which was used by the suspect as a front for his criminal activities in Nigeria. The operation was conducted by detectives armed with the appropriate legal authorities and had no connection to the NLC, its secretariat, staff or leadership. The police called for cooperation from the NLC leadership and urged Nigerians to remain vigilant and conduct security profiling of individuals seeking to rent spaces within their premises. And also the parts of Africa, the chiefs of defense staff in West Africa have called for the return of Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso to the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, made the call during a visit to the National Counter-Terrorism Center in Abuja. Musa emphasized the need for the three countries to return to the regional bloc to combat insecurity, particularly insurgency. He stressed the importance of partnering together to achieve success and emphasized the need for no country to do it alone. Musa appreciated the National Coordinator of NC2C, Major General Adamu Lake, for his efforts in counter-terrorism efforts. And straight out South Africa, a plane carrying 62 Flight 2283 operated by Voipa's Linhas Aéreas crashed in Vinhedo, a town about 80 kilometers northwest of the city. Local officials reported no survivors, but one home in the area was damaged without any injuries. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva confirmed the crash during an event, asking for a minute of silence for the victims. The plane, which had taken off from Cascavel, Paraná, and was headed for Sao Paulo's main international airport, crashed in Vinhedo. The aircraft was listed by flight tracker Flight Radar 24 as an ATR 7500 turboprop. And onto business, the Nigerian government has launched a $500 million Japanese International Cooperation Agency intervention project to improve power transmission infrastructure along the Lagos-Ogun Industrial Corridor. The project, which aims to address issues such as inadequate power supply and poor infrastructure, is aimed at boosting power transmission within and outside the Ogun Industrial Corridors. The project will also improve pipeline infrastructures passing through the state, enhancing the pressure, quality and quantity of gas supplies to power plants and industries. The project's success has now been praised by the Ogun State Governor, Dapo Abiodun. And that's the more you can take on the news. This hour. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X and Instagram, and do subscribe to the YouTube channel Plus TV Africa and Plus Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us on LimeX, on LimeX.tv, and Glo TV apps anywhere in the world. I am Emmanuel Olubobokun, and thanks for watching.
Percentage in education, and girls are at an early disadvantage. The sub-Saharan Africa records about 18 million out-of-school girls. This gender gap extends to the tech space, with a projection of only a 33% global female workforce representation in tech firms for 2022. Let us help change the stories and number. Donate as little as $2 or 2,000 naira to help a girl in tech get her heels in the door. Visit www.africaagility.rallyup.com/PTAG to donate.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
I had to go in and find out the best ways and safest ways to grow her hair. And in doing that and in finding out a lot of information, I found a lot of women wanted to do that as well, but they didn't have the information or the background, and I needed to find a way to help them out. And then in doing that, I also decided to found Davella Naturals, which is bringing out the products, ensuring that women had the best care, and also building a community of women who wanted to showcase their inner beauty by the growth of their hair, basically.
And that's just talking about hair.
In time, you have to have that confidence. There's some days you're not going to feel like putting on the wig cap and wearing the wig. You also have to have the confidence of the hair underneath all of that. So I tell my clients that the health of your hair is most paramount. Not necessarily the length, not necessarily how it looks, but how you look after it and how it makes you feel. Because a woman's hair is her crown at the end of the day.
All right, so what does it actually take to become a natural hair expert as well as run a successful business around it?
Okay, the most important thing is to have the passion for it, and then the knowledge and the expertise as well. You have to stay on top of current trends. You have to know what it is that is for long-term stay and what it is that people are just fascinated about. I mean, at some point in time, people were looking at putting raw egg in their hair, raw powder. Okay, what will make? So I always tell my clients that we at Davella Naturals, we redefine hair. This one will work, or that one will work. You need to know the basics, how to look after it, how to wash it, how often do you wash it, how long do you care for it. So the passion for it, the knowledge behind it, and then being able to be innovative and change with the people that come up, but also knowing that some things are constant in the business.
Well, I'll just have you know that I represent the men,
yes,
in our society. And we've always been told that we are the crown, we're the women's crown. But you just said to me that really, that's not true.
That the hair
it's your hair that is your crown.
Well, when a woman stands beside her man,
yes,
she has to be able to present herself in a way that he is going to be proud. And when she's confident and proud in her crown, he is also confident and proud in his crown.
So you can have a double crown.
Exactly.
anyhow, the natural hair trend, has transitioned into more of a lifestyle actually in Africa, over there, and even beyond.
Yes.
And that's over this maybe 10 years. Now, what would you say is responsible for that?
Okay, for me, it's a growing movement of women understanding who they are and drawing back from a lot of Eurocentric ideas. Growing up, we had relaxers because our mothers thought that that was the easiest way to look after your hair. Oh, your hair is hard. Oh, your hair is strong. You go to the salon,
and you're battling when you're combing it.
You're giving yourself a headache, not knowing how to handle the hair, And then also with a lot of research that have come out with the dangers of long-term use of some certain relaxers. I mean, in the US, the FDA is looking on how to ban relaxers in the US to look after it. And then they see the beauty in the hair itself and the versatility in looking after it, and they're proud. Because the pride in your own self is the most important thing in looking after your hair at the end of the day.
Wow.
Hair pride.
Hair pride. Okay, so how sustainable really is setting up a natural hair business in Nigeria? Sustainable in the terms of how many people really are interested in keeping their hair natural? How many women, for example? And, when you think of how difficult it is to keep it, you talked about the basics, which we didn't go into.
Okay, so for a lot of women, I've seen that they struggle with the hard hair, strong hair mentality first. I always tell people that healthy hair is the main course, 2 months. Maybe do it every 4 months, then extend it to every 6 months. In the process, you then now find out how to look after your hair in between. So how often are you conditioning it? How often? Now, the hair care industry is a multi-million naira industry. The only thing that is probably hindering a lot of people is that there's no proper regulation of loans in terms of, you know, banks and government being able to give us the right backing, you know, to build industry, to be able to manufacture these things, because we are not struggling within ourselves. We are struggling with international brands, the Shea Moistures, the Cantus, the Carol's Daughters. These brands have come in, and mind you, they get their raw materials from here. Their cocoa from Ghana, their shea butter from Ivory Coast, from Nigeria as well. They take it abroad, they manufacture these products and they bring it back. So, and then also, they need to be able to give us the ability to import a lot of the raw materials that we need to make these products. So access to loans, access...
is it unnatural hair?
You must feel so awkward talking about this.
I'm so awkward that I'm looking for the words. Now, wigs, right, have come as an escape. I can just, you know, quickly put on a wig and go on.
And go.
You know, so what would be your advice to women who rock their natural hair and might have been a little bit confused with the knocks that natural hair has been taking? What would be your advice to them?
Okay, I think I know to what you're alluding to, which is the current viral video that has been going around with a certain woman of God who has said some things that are not palatable. Now, to say those kind of things in an atmosphere where natural hair is still being groomed is actually quite damaging. Damaging to the esteem of some women who listen and take to heart what things that are said from the pulpit. To say that, quote unquote, who natural hair help, it actually helps a lot, because if you wear your wigs constantly, you will not wear it to sleep. Yeah, you are not going to wear your wig to sleep.
Unless you're with your new boyfriend.
You're not going to wear your wig to sleep. You're not going to wear your wig, you know, when you wake up in the morning. You have to be able to confidently look at that person in the mirror and say that the wig is an accessory to my beauty.
That's right.
It doesn't define my beauty. So at the end of the day, if you sit, I mean, for example now, Made Kuti just got married this past week. His wife had different kinds of natural hairstyles all through their wedding, from her afro to an updo to a pin-up look, and they were all very beautiful. And I say that to say this: it doesn't matter if you wear a wig or you do not wear a wig. The person that is meant for you is meant for you at the end of the day.
Okay, I see your hair.
Yes.
For a lot of us, we think that it's difficult to keep a long hair and still have it natural. Because when it's short, a lot of people who do natural hair, the low cut thin is it for them. So if I want to keep my hair long, and you said something a while ago that really, you know, it resonated with me, that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you see your real you.
Yes.
Not with a wig.
Yes.
But the real you with your hair as it is natural. So just give us those tips now that ladies, women watching this show, and for a few who would like to also take it to the next level, business level, what do we have to do, like in 2 minutes?
Okay, if in terms of caring for your hair, whether you are currently relaxed or you have natural hair, I would suggest ensure that you have a good clarifying shampoo, a good conditioner, deep conditioner preferably, leave-in conditioner, a good hair oil, and a hair moisturizer. Those are your basic tools that you need. Never allow your hairstylist use a rat tail comb, which is those very, very slim, thin combs on your hair. That's the first route to hair breakage. Always use a wide tooth comb, whether you have relaxed hair or you have natural hair. A wide tooth comb ensures that it detangles easily, especially when you're doing your hair. The quickest way when you're going to bed, have a satin hair cap or a satin pillowcase
Or if you don't have any of those, you have an old lingerie, old satin nightgown that you have in your cupboard somewhere that you've kept. Use it to wrap around your pillowcase, because cotton absorbs oil from your pillowcase and the friction rubs on your hair, which makes it difficult for you to keep length. So when women complain about length, I always tell them that consistency is key when you're doing your hair maintenance and you're doing your hair regimen. Make sure that you're consistent. If you're going to the salon, make sure that you understand what it is that your stylist is doing to your hair, and that they are not ignorant of how it is, and that you yourself are knowledgeable so that you can teach them, no, I don't want that. Use this instead. No, I don't want that comb. Because you should also have the confidence, you're paying for this thing, to tell them that I don't need this, I want this, and I want that. And then also in the business segment, ensure that you are willing to learn, you are willing to put in the work, to be able to say, this is what I want to do, and this is how I want to do it. And
the class on natural hair for free. I'll go get my old haircut.
Yes. Probably. I always tell people that our hair care products are not just for women; they're also for men as well. Especially men who are trying to grow their beard.
Oh, really?
Yes, our hair oil has been used. By a lot of men.
There's a chin guard.
Exactly. And then, we've had a lot of success with that as well.
Anyway, quickly, let's just, let's even find out, because it can't be all rosy. What challenges have you found that you and your colleagues face in the business of hair care in Nigeria?
It's definitely not rosy. It's definitely not rosy. You have a lot of, like I said earlier on, access to loans is very difficult. You have to either have a fallback, or you have, your family and friends, like I said, are very important when you're starting out your business. In getting marketing is also another thing. And then convincing people that made in Nigeria is also very good, because we are an export European mindset kind of. If it's not made abroad, it's not good enough. So we are trying to change that narrative. Buy the Naira, grow the Naira, made in Nigeria is very important. And knowing that there are actually good quality hair care products made here in Nigeria, affordable enough for you to not want to spend tens of thousands on products made abroad. But we know what it is that is good for Nigerian hair, good for the Nigerian environment, and that will work best for Nigerian women.
Okay. Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
This week on The Inside Story, the biggest prisoner swap since the Cold War sends 3 Americans home from Russian custody. The suspense continues to build as Vice President Kamala Harris has yet to name a running mate in her bid for November's presidential election. The Trump campaign attacks Harris over immigration and the southern border. The assassination of a top Hamas leader in Tehran threatens further escalation in the Middle East. Plus, an election in Venezuela with an official outcome outside observers call dubious. Now, on The Inside Story, USA Votes 2024.
Prisons. The swap involves 16 political prisoners exchanged for 8 individuals requested by the Kremlin. With Liam Scott and Christina Casiedo-Smith, Jessica Jarrett has the story.
Touching down in Ankara, Turkey Thursday, a deal not seen since the Cold War.
Today we're bringing home Paul, Evan, Alsu, Vladimir. 3 American citizens and 1 American green card holder. All 4 have been imprisoned unjustly in Russia.
Among those headed home from Russian prisons, journalists Evan Gershkovich, Alsu Kurmasheva, and former US Marine Paul Whelan, and Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Vladimir Kara-Murza. In total, months of negotiations secured the release of 16 people, including 5 wrongfully detained Germans and 7 Russian citizens, in return for 8 Russians held in the US, Germany, Poland, Norway and Slovenia. Flanked by the families of the Americans unjustly held, President Joe Biden says the deal is down to a, quote, feat of diplomacy and friendship.
Multiple countries helped get this done. They joined the difficult, complex negotiations at my request, and I personally thank them all again.
Top of Moscow's list, Vadim Krasikov, a convicted killer who was jailed in Germany. Whelan is the longest detained American in Thursday's swap. Arrested in Moscow in 2018, the veteran had been serving a 16-year prison term in a penal colony. Both he and the US have rigorously denied the spy charges against him. Wall Street Journal reporter Gershkovich was also imprisoned on espionage charges that he vehemently denied. The Moscow correspondent had spent 490 days in prison, and Kurmasheva spent nearly 10 months in prison. The Prague-based editor works for VOA's sister network, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, or RFE-RL. Russia has designated the independent station a so-called foreign agent and undesirable, which, under the country's law, carries an increased threat of legal action.
It is very risky for many journalists that we employ, and they are really on the front lines and putting their lives at risk all the time.
As families and supporters of those freed celebrate, analysts say Russia's targeting of critics and media is cutting audiences off from rare sources of independent news. With Liam Scott and Christina Casada-Smith in Washington, Jessica Dorit, VOA News.
Meanwhile, supporters of Vice President Harris are eagerly waiting to hear who she will select as her running mate. With fewer than 100 days before Election Day, both candidates are on the campaign trail. We begin our coverage with Scott Stearns, who looks at the state of the race and what voters are saying about the candidates.
Republican candidate Donald Trump told supporters in the key swing state of Pennsylvania that his likely Democratic opponent is a fraud.
The radical left Democrat Party bosses have installed a puppet candidate to fight only for themselves. Kamala Harris got 0 votes. She's totally scripted, owned, and controlled by the donors and the power brokers who created her campaign and who rip off our government and make billions and billions of dollars.
Former President Donald Trump.
Earlier in the day, Trump had a contentious meeting with black journalists where he questioned the racial identity of Harris, whose mother was Indian and her father is black.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
Harris has long self-identified as both black and South Asian American. Since becoming the likely Democratic presidential candidate, she's drawn even with Trump in 7 key swing states, according to political polling by Bloomberg News and The Morning Consult, largely on the strength of greater support from young black and Hispanic voters.
So the momentum in this race is shifting. And there are signs that Donald Trump is feeling it. You may have noticed.
Harris told a rally Tuesday in Georgia that Trump seems to have a lot to say about her, but does not want to debate in September as scheduled.
Well, Donald, I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say, say it to my face.
Harris is expected to announce her vice presidential pick in the coming days and still has the party's convention in Chicago to help convince voters that she's a better choice than Trump. In North Carolina, voter Wanda Cherry says she's excited about the Democratic Party switch from President Joe Biden to Harris.
I'm glad that the president realized that
We need somebody younger to run the country, somebody that has the smarts and the willingness to run.
Georgia voter T. Stanley does not believe Harris is ready to be president.
First, her being the candidate this is like horrific to me because first of all, she's not prepared to be president, and it seems like she's already president now.
Georgia voter Phil Ownby says Harris has reinvigorated the presidential race.
I will vote for her, and I'm excited to do so. I generally think she may be a little liberal on certain issues, but in order to safeguard our democracy, I definitely vote for her.
In California, voter Marina George says Trump's support is strong enough
apart even more and faster, and everything that they're doing is good for the Republicans.
Nationally, the Bloomberg poll shows Harris and Trump in a statistical tie with fewer than 100 days to go before Election Day. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
Republicans are now focusing on Vice President Harris's work on immigration, especially since she is likely to be the Democratic nominee. Former President Trump and other members of the Republican Party have begun calling Vice President Harris, quote, Biden's border czar, a title immigration experts say is fabricated. For more on this, here's VOA immigration correspondent Alini Barros.
Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump has switched his focus to Vice President Kamala Harris, his likely opponent.
When it really got bad, she launched a colossal illegal alien invasion of a country. She said, come on in, remember?
Illegal immigration is the leading issue among Republican voters, and the Trump campaign tries to link Harris to Biden immigration policy by calling her his border czar.
She was never named a border czar. In fact,
Harris was assigned the task of reducing migration to the U.S. southern border in collaboration with Central American nations of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador.
She was in charge of developing a strategy and gaining commitments for development assistance and investment into those three countries of the Northern Triangle to help reduce the so-called push factors for migration.
After Biden asked Harris to spearhead a strategy to help improve living conditions and discourage migrants from leaving their home, Harris's immigration message became stricter.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come.
Trump says Harris's record shows she is ultra-liberal on immigration.
Kamala voted in favor of deadly sanctuary cities. She supports decriminalizing illegal border crossings, and she supports mass amnesty for all illegals. Think of that.
House Republicans last week passed a resolution condemning the Biden administration and its, quote, border czar Kamala Harris for failing to secure the border. Leading House Democrat Hakeem Jeffries says Republicans are lying about Harris because they have no plan to address challenges at the border.
And the vice president was not a border czar. They are making that up because they have no affirmative agenda, vision, or track record for the American people.
Immigration lawyer Hector Quiroga says that immigration reform is needed, no matter who is elected president.
We have over 3 million cases stuck in courts. There's not enough immigration judges. We've been saying that for a long time.
The Biden administration says it's making progress at the border, reporting that arrests for illegal crossings from Mexico in June were the lowest of any month during Biden's presidency. Alini Barros, VOA News, Washington.
Access to abortion is a major topic in this year's U.S. presidential race. The Kamala Harris campaign is relying on support for abortion rights to drive voters to the polls in November. Meanwhile, Donald Trump and the Republican Party have moderated their public stance on the issue. VOA's Veronica Balderas Iglesias has more.
U.S. women's reproductive rights are often center stage as Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris's campaign events.
We who believe in reproductive freedom will stop Donald Trump's extreme abortion bans because we trust women to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do.
Former President Donald Trump praised the Supreme Court's 2022 overturning of federal protections on abortion access. He stresses he favors each U.S. state deciding on whether to grant or block it.
The Democrats really, and not all of them, because most of them agree with us, they're the radical ones, whereas our position is that abortion is now back to the states.
Trump and the Republican Party have recently toned down their abortion rhetoric, which at times included calls for national abortion bans. That's no accident, says Rutgers University polling expert Ashley Koning.
We saw in the midterms and in special elections, when abortion is either directly or indirectly on the ballot, how consequential that has been to elections, and that the
Democrats are betting on a pro-choice platform. Husband Doug Emhoff visited a reproductive health center in McLean, Virginia.
Really important that the vice president, that the second gentleman focus on this, continue to engage with us and work on coming up with a plan.
Among anti-abortion groups, there are those who doubt that reproductive rights will drive a record number of voters to the polls in November. The Trump ticket probably won't sharply increase their focus on abortion, even as the Harris campaign does, in the opinion of National Right to Life Committee President Carol Tobias.
I think they're going to be talking about what they think is important, and I don't know how much they will be responding to her. I think they definitely.
Analysts expect the Trump campaign will continue to prioritize the economy when courting voters, as historically that has been Americans' top concern in presidential elections. Veronica Valderas Iglesias, VOA News, McLean, Virginia.
The acting director of the U.S. Secret Service called the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump a failure on multiple levels, further describing it as shameful. Tuesday in Washington, Ronald Rowe testified before U.S. lawmakers on Capitol Hill. He promised immediate changes to fix communications and coverage breakdowns that allowed a gunman to climb the roof of a nearby building and fire 8 shots during a July 13th rally in western Pennsylvania. The shooter killed a rally goer, wounding Trump and 2 others.
One of my first actions as acting director was traveling to the Butler Farm Show site to better understand how our protection failed. I went to the roof of the agency, made me ashamed. As a career law enforcement officer and a 25-year veteran with the Secret Service, I cannot defend why that roof was not better secured. I've heard your calls for accountability, and I take them very seriously.
Meanwhile, the ongoing investigation into the shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, has yet to determine why the 20-year-old tried to kill former President Trump. FBI officials who briefed reporters Monday said Crooks appears to have made significant efforts to conceal his activities, which may have begun more than a year ago. Fears of escalating an already deadly regional conflict followed last week's rocket attack that killed 12 children on a football field in northern Israel. The United States said it was not involved in the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in an overnight strike in Tehran, while the Hamas political leader was in the country to attend the Iranian president's inauguration. Haniyeh is the second leader of a militant group reported to have been assassinated this week following the killing of Hezbollah's most senior military commander in Lebanon. Linda Gradstein reports from Jerusalem.
Israel has stepped. Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated in Iran, allegedly by Israel. Israeli analysts say the operations against both the senior Hezbollah commander in Beirut and Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran were victories for Israel, but will trigger retaliation.
But pay attention to the fact that both sides are trying to find strong enough to make a statement, but not escalate to a full-scale war.
Yadlin says both operations helped to rebuild Israel's image as a strong country with intelligence capabilities, an image which was shattered in the Hamas airstrike killed 3 of his sons in Gaza. Palestinians in Gaza say his death will make them more committed to fighting Israel.
The Israeli occupation falsely believes that by assassinating leaders of the Palestinian resistance, it will damage the resistance capabilities or its ability to function. We've witnessed the assassination of a number of Palestinian resistance leaders, but the resistance has grown, multiplied, and gained more power to target the Israeli occupation. This is what was happening, and that is what will happen after the assassination of Haniya.
The assassination comes amid talks for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, which could lead to the release of at least some of the 115 hostages still being held in Gaza. Some analysts said the killing of Haniya may further weaken Hamas in Gaza.
So Hamas in Gaza is slowly losing its not to cooperate with Israel. But as a military organization, slowly, Israel is making it irrelevant.
However, he said Hezbollah remains a strong military to Israel since Haniya was killed in Iran. In April, Iran fired hundreds of missiles directly at Israel, and Iran has used proxies, including the Houthis in Yemen and Hezbollah, to attack the country. Linda Gradstein, VOA News, Jerusalem.
Now we turn to South America, where Venezuela recently held a presidential election. Large numbers of Venezuelans participated in the election, but the process has been highly controversial. Many believe it was impossible for incumbent Nicolas Maduro to win a 3rd term, given that outside observers had him losing by a landslide for much of the day. The fatalities. The international community is now calling for an independent verification of the vote counts. From the State Department in Washington, VOA's Celia Mendoza reports.
Protests erupted incumbent President Nicolas Maduro, the winner of Sunday's election.
Recibo esta credencial.
I received the link that I accept humbly.
National elect Mundo González Urrutia received 44%. Gonzalez became the candidate after the government barred opposition leader Maria Corina Machado from running.
Edmundo González Urrutia got 70% of the votes in this election, and Nicolas Maduro received 30% of the votes.
Machado says her results are based on tallies the opposition campaign received from representatives stationed at about 40% of ballot boxes. The claims of election irregularity have drawn attention from the international community, including U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who expressed his concerns about the validity of the results Monday during his visit to Tokyo.
It's critical that every vote be counted fairly and transparently, that election officials immediately share information with the opposition and independent observers without delay, and that the electoral authorities publish the detailed tabulation of votes.
In a letter, Argentina, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Guatemala, Paraguay, Peru, the Dominican Republic, and Uruguay shared their profound external pressures may be needed to effect change.
That I think change, if it happens, is going to have to come within Venezuela rather than from abroad. And I don't think this is over just yet. Maduro doesn't rule alone. Both he and key figures in his inner circle know that he's not going to be able to govern a country in flames.
On Monday, Venezuelan Attorney General Tarek William Saab accused Machado and other opposition members of attempting to hack of the country's electoral system. No evidence has been provided.
I think we're going to see greater and greater repression in the next few days in Venezuela. So far, we've already seen attacks against Maria Corina's campaign and threats against her person in recent months, and I think the government's likely to escalate that.
On Monday, Panama's President José Raúl Mulino announced a break with Venezuela.
El gobierno de Panamá anuncia el retiro del personal diplomático de Venezuela.
The Panamanian government announced the withdrawal of diplomatic personnel from Venezuela and the suspension of diplomatic relations until a complete review of the minutes and the computer system of the vote count is carried out.
Bolivia, Honduras, China, Cuba, Iran, and Russia have recognized Maduro's victory. But
This is not a left-right issue. This is about democracy or dictatorship.
Ramsey says the protests in Venezuela now are just a drop in the bucket compared to what's to come. Celia Mendoza, VOA News, State Department.
I'm Katherine Gibson. We'll see you next week.
It is not the hope of this feature to blame anyone for the never-ending tension between police and the citizens. However, it is certain that there is always a tension with most people when they approach a police checkpoint. Many factors are or even being guilty of an infraction. Many issues that go wrong at a police checkpoint can be linked to lack of proper communication and understanding on the side of the police force and also on the side of the citizen. Here are some tips listed by the police force about comporting yourself at a police checkpoint. Endeavor to slow down your vehicle. It shows that you're not reckless. It also douses suspicion that you're a criminal and may want to speed off. Turn down the volume of your car stereo. Courtesy demands this. Besides, you are able to hear each other better. This simple act will help you win the confidence of the security fear by the officers that you're attempting to bring out a gun or other harmful objects to attack them. Turn on the inner light of your vehicle while approaching the cops if at night. It readily sends an unspoken message that you have nothing to hide.
That's the nature of your job, officer. Don't worry. That's the nature of your Everything job, will be fine.
Working under very unfriendly weather conditions such as rains and harsh Harmattan conditions, excessive heat, cold or sunshine. We know it's their job, but a little kind word from you will do a lot of good. Remember, when you smile at the mirror smiles back at you.
Officer will not come down. Let's see what you do. Don't mind this. We won't come down.
Endeavor to be polite when answering questions put to you by the officers. Don't dare or challenge an armed security man to a duel. Oftentimes, you hear people say things like, "Shoot me if you can." Note that this is a recipe for disaster. It is a very provocative and unnecessary call for war. So please, play safe. More so as you do not know the state of mind of the officer concerned. Also, avoid unnecessary arguments with armed security personnel. There are 1,001 ways to seek redress where you feel your rights have been infringed upon. Never try to touch an officer in an unfriendly manner. He may suspect you of trying to disarm him. If you're a regular traveler or road user, make sure you have the police emergency phone numbers of the route you operate. You never can tell when an emergency situation could arise and you need the police to come to your aid. Make sure you have all your relevant traffic offense. Such infractions of the law provide a veritable grounds for possible charges and other forms of adversarial contact with the police or other law enforcement agencies, including unnecessary arguments. Don't give the impression that you're unhappy to see the officer on his beat or that he's wasting your time. But if you do have an emergency, politely inform the officer. Don't speed off while still being checked. Take note of the name tags, force or service numbers, personal description of weapon or patrol vehicle of the security officer, especially where the officers begin to conduct themselves in an unprofessional manner. Seek an audience with the most senior officer at the checkpoint if things are not working out smoothly. Politely insist to be taken to the police station if your complaint is not properly addressed.
working with Buhari, I wrote my book to change false narratives about the president, Femi Adesina. I am Bola Oba, and this is Plus Politics. Special Advisor to former President Muhammadu Buhari on Media and Publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina, has explained that he wrote the book working with Buhari on the former president to change the false narratives out there. He said when he was offered the appointment to work with Buhari, he was reluctant to accept it because he did not know what he was going into. Quote, I would say I had known President Buhari long before I came to work for him as advisor on media and publicity, unquote, Adesina said. He went further. Before then, I had not worked in government and I had no desire to work in government. But when the invitation to work with him came, I took it because he was a man I admired. After he won the election in 2015 and said, come and work with me, I wanted to say no because I was managing director of the Sun newspapers. I was president of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, NGE. I did not want to leave what I was doing. I was very reluctant when I was asked to come to government. When I resigned my appointment, I began to cry because I did not know what I was going into, unquote. We have the honor of having Mr. Femi Adesina literally in our studios. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Let's start on the lighter note. How are you fitting back into normalcy, quote unquote?
Well, the truth is that even while I was in government, I was not out of normalcy. I was still a member of the society. I didn't cocoon myself in government. I didn't make myself unreachable. I was still part of society. So finishing 10 months ago and coming back home was not difficult for me.
Still on the lighter note, were you also stricken by the reported voodoo, invisible voodoo phantom in the presidency? One of your predecessors actually was once quoted to have stated that there is a phenomenon that ordinarily plagued.
If you have read the book Working with Buhari, it's a whole chapter that was dedicated to that. I didn't see anything untoward. I didn't see anything mystical or mysterious in the villa. I think it's just a myth. And anybody that claims things like that happened is the one that can defend it or justify it. But I was there for 8 years, nothing untoward, nothing unusual.
Would you not think that maybe when people think that those who are going into the villa would act in a particular way, given what they think they know about the antecedents, and they see them acting in seemingly contradictory way, maybe that's why they reason like the administration you served and the president you served was once thought to have subscribed to the idea of devolution when it was campaigning, especially in 2014. Was once thought to be a president that was going to bring about a more profound degree of sanity in public life. And so, people naturally would take to such an opinion from whoever may have served in the villa that maybe when people get ensconced in the villa, there is a degree of detachment from the
There was a time that things were quite difficult in the country. You know, now a lot of people say, being power, we are hungry, we are hungry. There was a time under Buhari that things were difficult too, and things were expensive. So one evening, I went to see him at home. And I said, Mr. President, do you know that there's a lot of complaint about scarcity of food and the prices of essential commodities and all that? He said, that I know. He said, I have people from my constituency who give me feedback. He said, so I know what is happening, and we will do our best to make life better for them. So that shows you that when you are there, there are different feedback mechanisms you can have. And unless you shut all those avenues, then that is when you become closeted from reality.
But there was this particular audio leak from the then Honorable Minister for Transport, Right Honorable Rotimi Amaechi, when he said he was jocularly referring to some characters who felt they could complain. He said Buhari, who doesn't even read newspapers, living in his own world, a man who was so far away from the reality of the Nigerian environment that even, you know, a ministerial character could not be bothered by any opinion or any especially social media opinionation that some people thought would reverberate to him.
Well, just like you said, it was a leak. And the nature of leaks is that you can't authenticate it. So, for all we know, it could have been cooked up. It could have been manufactured. I didn't hear Minister Amaechi saying, yes, I said so. Neither did he say, no, I didn't say so. So, for all you know, it may not be true. But the President Buhari I worked with was the one who told me as his media advisor that 10 a.m. every day, I want the media highlights on my table. And when you give it to him, he begins to read it immediately. And one time he told me, he said, when I read the media highlights, I find the paper you have referred to in the highlights, and I go to read that story. So,
I guess in this age of information inundation, that is what most of us do anyway. Yeah. Even those of us who are in the trade. In the morning, you want to look at the highlights and those items that are of interest to you. You then dig further by. Yes. I'm not saying, it's your brief to hold. It's a lifelong brief. You and Garba Shehu. Yeah. I was a bit sympathetic to you and Garba Shehu. And I must confess that on a number of occasions, I think because for me, it would bother, many of the things that happened, and it's not very inconsistent with the presidential system of government because it's like a big orchestra. Somebody inevitably will miss a chord. Somebody will miss a note. That's not, even in America where we've copied it from, we know that the president may be speaking to a particular agenda and you could have one or two. But having said that, what was the greatest challenge that you personally had whilst loyally and faithfully working for the man Buhari as his official spokesperson?
Well, let me first attend to one word you used, an incompetent government. That's your opinion.
That was what I used to say.
Well,
I never say it's not my opinion.
It is your opinion. You have a right to it, but it doesn't make you right.
I never said that. I never said it was gospel.
But you have.
I said, places with this gentleman. What could I have done better?
You can't begin to pontificate. that whatever is my opinion is the gospel truth, is what is right.
I never said it was gospel.
But you have a right to it.
Oh, thank you.
You have a right to
Thank
it.
you for,
So-
at least, if that makes you more democratic, more of a Democrat than I would have thought of somebody that worked with a principal that,
that's a mistake you have made
no
again.
nonsense.
That's a mistake you have made again.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it, yeah.
Okay. You were asking what is the challenge.
That you encountered, that you acting of your profession.
The nature of challenges is that they are meant to be confronted. Any challenge that came, we confronted it, and as much as possible, if challenge and maybe took things in my stride as they came. And
speaks to the fact that when the distinguished Senator Bukola Saraki emerged as the president of the Senate,
yes.
We knew that it was against the run of play of what the establishment, a man who was not, President Buhari was not ready to use any form of intimidation but from the way you have reported it, he seemed not to have liked it. You had to work on him a little bit to even concede to really congratulating the new leadership of the then newly emerged leadership of the Senate. How could we have bought the line? Those of us who thought we were tea leaf readers and political analysts, how could we have, on the one hand, bought the line that it was just because he didn't want to interfere with the process, and yet somebody as proximate to him as he were, still is, and writing from the perspective of somebody who still wants to portray him as a Democrat.
Because President Buhari is on record as having said before the proclamation of the National Assembly that whoever emerged as the leader or the leadership of both houses, he will work with. He was on record as having said that. That means, yes, the party has this prescription, or rather that the prescription of the party is what happens, but if it happens the other way, we will work with anybody that emerges. But then, somebody else emerging through subterfuge was what the president couldn't brook. If he had emerged fair and square, there will have been no issue. Remember the background happenings. They were waiting for a meeting with the party, and then some people went behind to begin to meet.
Left the venue.
Chunk of the people were not there, still waiting for the meeting with the party leadership. And because they had formed a quorum, something constitutionally acceptable.
To be too forensic, I was a bit disturbed as the senators-elect of the party were supposedly scheduled to have. What convinced us that the president was going to come was because a detachment of army operatives were already on the ground, and the only elected officer of state in Nigeria, officers or operatives of the Nigerian army, is the commander-in-chief. So we thought he was going to come, but there was a bit of a delay because it came in from a foreign gospel. You thought some people played the first one on the party and played the quisling and went to join forces. Chimeric leadership of the Senate, where the substantive president was, the president of the Senate was the party from the majority party, but the vice president, the deputy president of the Senate, was from, unusually, the opposition party. But even at that, as a Democrat, your principal...
If it was fair and square, but it was not. There was subterfuge.
ordinarily do across the world. Sometimes you get the...
Is that at the end of the day, he agreed that the statement should be issued. If you read the book, he inserted one word where I wrote that a constitutional process had been concluded. He inserted the word somewhat. So he now read a constitutional process has somewhat been concluded. So that's what happened. But eventually...
But the constitutional process was concluded.
It was. And that was what I wrote. And then he inserted the word somewhat. Because there was a lot of shenanigans that went into
which were not unusual in a political environment.
Not unusual. But there is also party supremacy. And everybody that is in...
The microscope to principled...
I agree with you. I agree with that one. Can be principled to that point of obstinacy.
Yes. And I'm sitting there, but indeed the emotional persona of a man who could tell you to your face that, because of such things that you have mentioned, like subterfuge, I'm not saying is not true. Many of us outside too could see the machinations and but 8 years working closely, didn't lose much weight too. And your chubby face. Sorry, maybe I wanted to take a punch at.
Okay. One thing I need to iterate here, or reiterate because I've written it, is that on the day I resumed work, President Buhari told me, he said, one thing I will want from you, Adesina, is the truth. Always. I say, always tell me the truth. In this kind of position, people, the truth. He said, when I argue, please argue with me. He said, I'm a general, so I can argue. He said, but argue with me. If you argue with me and you are right, I will end up agreeing with you. It was like giving me a blank check. And that was why on that day when I said, let's issue a statement to congratulate the leadership of the National Assembly, and he said no, he would not issue. I argued with him until from the ruling party, one election in one state, party and their candidate that won. He said, why must I do it? I said, you need to do it. Otherwise it will be misinterpreted. And I showed him the statement I had prepared. He read through. And then he said, go ahead.
Like any other human being, sometimes this developed or
yes.
You feel, okay, you see, and this perhaps will be the last time I mention it. I earlier said that I often empathized with you. And the administration at a point went into or nurtured a culture of taciturnity. You needed to hear from the president. And the president was like in Mongolia. And we were Garba Shehu is not Muhammadu Buhari. Strategy of alienation and
nation. I'll call it a style peculiar to.
And that was a metaphor and phraseology you were very adept at.
Yes,
yes. It was even far more irritating.
Yes,
irritating.
Yes, because stylistics lecturer telling us that style is idiosyncratic. Style is different from Achebe's style. Achebe's style is different from J.P. Clark's style. Style was peculiar to each of them. So also with the president. Donald Trump had his style. Before we issued. Now let me give you an illustration. During COVID, there was a lot of trepidation everywhere. It was going to wipe out the world. So when there was going to be a shutdown, the president made a broadcast. A week after, he made another broadcast. And in another 2 weeks, he made another broadcast. 3 broadcasts within a month. I was then on the radio station and somebody called in and said, "We want the president to speak to us. He must speak to us. He must speak to us." And then I asked the person, I said, "This month alone, there had been 3 broadcasts. Isn't that president speaking to the country?"
But that was a time.
Then what they wanted was a president like Donald Trump, who
was literally in the faces of their.
Headed by the Secretary to the Government, Boss Mustafa, which did a fantastic job. In fact, the UN Secretary General commended Nigeria for the way it tackled the president who had all the body movements.
Okay, let's speak to some of we've tried well enough to psychoanalyze the idiosyncrasy.
Their style is idiosyncratic.
I'm coming home to you.
Okay.
Because at least I could sympathetically pardon you. Speaking for your principal, but you also took on some unnecessary battles. How did the Wailing Wailers, how did that emerge from lexicography?
Yes. If you also read my book, a whole chapter was dedicated.
But you must tell our viewers.
Yes, I'm going to tell it now. A whole chapter.
Maybe that will even make some people buy your book.
A whole chapter was dedicated to the Wailing Wailers. What happened? In the early days of the administration, Olisa Metu was a spokesman for PDP. Anything the president's
portfolio.
If he didn't rate, he would say
one to you.
No, well, to anybody, and we were in a large number. So one day, he issued one unnecessary statement from my view. I then did a tweet. I said, these people were in power for 16 years. Now they have lost it. They do not seem to realize PDP and a spokesman, Olisa Metu. Government came into power May 29, so it has only served June. He has abused us. Not PDP people generally on social media who are anti-Buhari. He has called us Wailing Wailers. And because I didn't refer to them as Wailing Wailers. And
mean that you see, sometimes you present a very innocuous facade or visage of a face. You act like you can barely kill. You could be very mischievous. What instructed you signing, even if it was Metu and PDP, what instructed the phraseology Wailing Wailers?
Yeah, because we knew Bob Marley and the Wailing Wailers. And then we had a party which wailed about everything. So I then called them Wailing Wailers.
So as innocent and chubby, he sometimes goes to hunt for a fight.
Well, Shakespeare says there's no art to find him. It reminds me of another TV host who said,
indeed, a gentle. You wouldn't want to run away from a fight, but you would only. I don't give a poncho. There was that any media would find it difficult to manage. See the First Lady and some family members. One incident, some reported shots fired. I'm picking my phrases well. I wasn't there.
It was in the public domain.
And moments like that, somebody like you, and what did it take? How did you manage such, on the one hand, it related more with the family than with the person of the president.
Exactly.
On the other hand, the people would need some modicum of logical. What would you expect? What would you expect if emotional management style that you could go blank? You wouldn't even know. So how did you guys?
Yes.
I remember that You emotionally lashed us with that line too. Some of your lines are coming out to haunt.
Who first used that line? I think it was it Obama during the campaign, and there was an issue about.
But you borrowed it. You borrowed it abundantly.
I borrowed it. Obama said no, family is off limits. So me too. That was the position I took.
Sorry for the French.
No problem. There was one weekend I came home. You were on the radio station, and you were criticizing me so much. I said, "Who is this person?" Gola Oba. What did I do to him?
Sometimes you got me so livid, and I would think. But you see, and a part of me would again say, but what could you have done if you were to swap places with,
you know, it's a very delicate. Otherwise, you land yourself in trouble.
You became the first Nigerian to hold the position for 2 terms of a president.
Yes.
Is not only in Nigeria, in most liberal democracies, it is perceived to be one of those portfolios with loads and loads of banana peels, littering the wayfare. One way you speak, some will be happy, especially loyalists and partisans of the party of the president. But some, even if you woke Rotimi Williams from the grave, and Gani Williams and Gani Fawayimi was backing Rotimi Williams. You couldn't before we go to age when conventionalism left journalism, left public relations, left public relations, because at some point we have to appropriate some of the experiences you gain there for the benefit of, especially as it relates to the fecundity of how, information.
It was under that administration that social media exploded. He had to tackle people on social media at a point. But by the time we came in 2015, it was everywhere. It almost became a national distraction. So what I did was I had to get on all the platforms of social media too. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that.
Make a confession now.
Yes.
You holding an imaginary Bible. Most of those tweets by the president was not directly by the president.
No. It
was by you people.
This is how it happens. There is a digital team headed by Tolu Ogunlesi. When we...
So, it was more of a proxy...
Yes. Oh, yes. It was a statement we had issued.
The backroom guys are, and the incumbent president has been very circumspect, not making any negative allegation about his predecessor. But we have some officers of the executive now speaking to how some things were done with utter absurdity, incongruity, lack of respect for processes, procedure, and the rule of law. You, as somebody who was part of that administration, how do you sometimes feel when you wake up and you see there are still allegations, and you see the Emefiele and the CBN story go one way? You hear some, you read about some abuses of processes and how it did seem, if one were to, but in a way being painted not to be in control.
President Buhari was there, he made a speech and he said, when things are not put on record, revisionists will have the day. He said for everything that was done under him in his administration, the records are there. So anybody, the records to find out.
Is it Reverend Femi Adesina? I don't like when I get this tricky, honestly. Even me, I was thinking, I know you are, you have an ecclesiastic title of a sort.
I do.
Is it Deacon?
I do.
Reverend?
I just love the one brother.
Oh, brother.
You call me Brother Femi, I'm okay.
To be an act that is done only when you are seen to be doing it. That you are still standing by your principle and using the giftings of God in your life to still want to give the record as best as you believe it should be seen. All the best.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Wish you all the best.
I appreciate it.
This is where we wrap it up for today. Quite an encounter with Mr. Femi Adesina. I am Bola Oba.
I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Assumed office with an announcement that had grave impact on the people. Subsidy is gone. The president exclaimed during his inaugural address at the Eagle Square, Abuja. He also promised to lead the country with compassion and amity towards all.
Unfortunately, the budget that I've glimpsed is that no provision is there for fuel subsidy.
Reassurance by the president's team that the subsidy removal was not immediate, the announcement sparked reaction as most filling stations quickly saw an opportunity to profiteer of the situation. As expected, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) announced an upward review of its fuel prices across filling stations. Also, at the dawn of this administration, the Central Bank of Nigeria had seen a free fall ever since. Like government couldn't have come at the worst time when he is struggling with high inflation, unemployment and poverty. Even the rich are not left out.
Honestly speaking, I think in Nigeria right now, anybody that tells you that is not feeling the pain is lying to you. Cost of living is very expensive in the market. All the landlord has added money for their rent. Transportation is not like before. So Nigeria is too hectic.
It doesn't be easy. The high rack of fare, feeding, no matter how, no matter what, it will survive.
In the wake of all of this, experts say the impact of the subsidy removal on the cost, according to figures by the National Bureau of Statistics, the inflation rate could rise to 30% by December. Professor Christopher Imomolen is a serial entrepreneur.
Despite the fact that subsidy needs to be removed, because we cannot run an economy where a large chunk of our revenue is being used to pay subsidies, and these subsidies hardly affect the economy, which we currently see today. Inflation rate is at the highest rate ever. It's also have a ripple effect, even if not had since 1960. This has period effects just from one commodity which the nation is largely dependent on. I believe that before we can totally lift subsidy from the PMS, we must also ensure that we provide power, we provide alternative source of energy for the people. The world today is embracing green economy. It's not something that will happen in the space of 5 years. It will take a lot of time, but we must gradually do that. Everybody have their leadership style. So, but of course, we've seen the ripple effect of that decision on the economy. So we can at this point say that it was not really a good idea that was announced at that time it was announced. I felt that cabinet should have been drawn up because you need people to help implement policies. You know, your team, the team should have been on ground. As at that time, there was no ministers, there was no anybody on ground. It was very harsh. And looking at the fact that we are coming out from a very bad situation where Naira was scarce, people could not have access to Naira, and immediately you were going into, you know, at a time when people were looking for hope, when people were seeking to say, okay, maybe this person could be the Messiah to rescue us from. You know, so that's not consult as a president, and you would have gone through your team. And that would have been done through, after you have set up at least to a large extent, your team inaugurated them then.
He sheds light on how the Naira float and recent policies are affecting the economy.
You just tell them that they pay high duty for bringing in those costs of those goods and services. That could encourage them to begin to think of establishing it here in Nigeria. Instead of you telling them you're banned, they'll find other ways to gain FX. And most of these 41 banned items are items that Nigerians generally want to make use of. So you need the implementation of this policy.
As it stands, the elimination of fuel subsidy has brought both challenges and about 500 to 600 Naira across the country, that is per litre.
It's not cheap at all. Though. Many people are suffering. To even get the money to buy food is a problem. And the market also now is very expensive. We are not making it at all. Even you that are selling it, there's no gain on the market these days.
Small and medium-sized enterprises are facing difficulties in accessing affordable, cannot afford even alternatives as they are disillusioned by the hack in liquefied petroleum gas, LPG.
We don't really, they should try and help us. What do you think you use outside of gas? Charcoal stove, that's the alternative for me because here you cannot use firewood inside your house.
The gas 1 kg is 900. So before we are buying it, is it 350? Yeah, so it is our cost now. So I think.
And Naira float continues. How are ordinary Nigerians finding ways to mitigate the impact of these policies on their daily lives? While some have reduced unnecessary trips, others have adjusted their budget and spending habits.
We had to no unnecessary outings, nothing, because pocket go tell you now.
The food matter, now that one was pass. Because before, how much be the acre of rice? Not be 120. Now we dey buy at 1,900. 1,900. Just consider the person that get 4 children now. How you want to survive? I beg. Now beg we dey beg them. Make them help us so. This thing too much. Too much. Ororo, ma'am, rice, everything. Wetin happen? Wetin we do them? Make them help fuel where we dey even dey manage to buy. We no fit buy am.
It's only by the mercy of God that morning to by mercy of God now. Our children cannot feed West. We don't know who to cry to. All we are begging is that God should come to our intervention.
Persistent inflationary pressures in the economy have accelerated poverty in the country, with purchasing power continuing to slump over the past few months. The federal government had announced a 5 billion naira palliative for each state, including the Federal Capital Territory, to cushion the impact of the removal of subsidy. The fund was shared in the ratio of 52 to 48%.
Student loan, you said September, nobody's seen student loan. Talk about CNG. So everything is just like ghosts. It's as if nothing is happening. And when people start talking, it's look as if when people are against, we are not against government. We must just talk so that this country will grow. We want this government to succeed. And this is what we are saying now. If everybody just keep quiet and everybody is nodding their head, no, you are doing the best, and this country will fail, and every one of us failed. So government needs to start looking at the right thing to do, and the people need to also adjust.
Going forward, here are some suggestions by experts on how to cope with fuel subsidy removal in the country. Reduce dependence on petrol-powered generators. Invest in alternative energy sources like solar panels, inverters, or batteries. These can provide electricity and reduce reliance on fuel-powered generators. Use energy-efficient appliances and bulbs to minimize electricity consumption. Adopt energy-saving habits such as turning off lights, fans, and electronics when not in use. Use public transportation or carpooling. Utilize public transportation options like buses or trains, which are generally more cost-effective than driving private vehicles. Consider carpooling with colleagues, neighbors, or friends who travel of time. Make a list of places you need to visit and tasks you need to complete. Combining errands into a single trip minimizes fuel usage. Utilize online shopping and delivery services for groceries, food, and other items to reduce the need for physical trips. Adjust your budget and save money. Prioritize essential expenses and reduce discretionary spending. Consider taking up a side hustle or exploring additional sources of income to retain heat during cooler months and reduce the need for it. Explore, avoid rapid acceleration or braking, and keeping vehicle maintenance. Engage in advocacy and dialogue. Participate in discussions with policy makers, community leaders, and relevant organizations to voice concerns and propose sustainable solutions. Advocate for policies that promote renewable energy sources and support initiatives aimed at reducing reliance on fossil fuels. Avoid long and unnecessary commutes. Optimize your travel routes to minimize distance and time spent on the road. Consider remote work or flexible work arrangements, if possible, to reduce the frequency of commuting. For shorter distances, consider using fitness and reduces carbon emissions.
Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of Cancer with Dr. Denise Ejo, the CEO of Common Cancer Foundation. I hope you're having a one-on-one with him. Prof, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Denise. Good afternoon.
I know you have a very busy schedule, so let's try to go so that ensuring cancer awareness activities are promoted and knowledge is with us for the whole year. We really appreciate you. And so together we fight, together we win. You all know you follow us, Common Cancer Foundation, any of our social media platforms, and you can watch all the videos there and find out what's going on. So today, me, Aliyu, the Pioneer Director General of the Nigerian Institute for Cancer Research and Treatment in Nigeria. Thank you very much for taking your time out for this program, Prof. I really don't take it for granted. I am AC of Usman Danfodio University Teaching Hospital in Sokoto, where we're both alumni together, and I say it with so much pride because people don't know there's a University of Sokoto. Usman Danfodio University, and he's a member of the IOTIC, Africa Education and Training Committee, and the past NMA State Chairman. So sit back, viewers, and let's all relax as we listen to Prof.
Please go ahead. Thank you.
Firstly, can you please share the changing narrative for cancer patients across Nigeria?
Okay, so thank you very much for the question. As you are very much that research and treatment was established in January 2020 toward cancer control, the mandate to passion the activities of cancer prevention cancer treatment, cancer research, and in totality cancer control in the country. So, and since the establishment of the institute, the management took the ground running by setting out so many activities, one of which was to, in general, for our policy documents, strategic plan has expired 3 weeks back. We launched these 3 documents, which are very essential and very important to the country. The first one is the cancer control plan. And then the 2 cancer cervical cancer control plan and the cancer research agenda were the first to actually be drafted and launched in the history of cancer in Nigeria. You were there, Dr. Dennis. So actually it was a great success that was achieved and recorded in the country. And going forward, all our action is going to be tailored as we go forward. Permit me, it is expected that the Institute will liaise with all the stakeholders that have interest in cancer in the country.
Now, one key thing that is of very big interest, we always had this back and forth conversation. We intend to get this out in such a way that there is equity, there's fairness, there is access within the limitations. And what are your plans on partnerships? Because you can't fund.
Now, in line with the renewed agenda of the Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, that is His Excellency Swaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, and with the great effort launching of the 5-year cancer strategy for health and social economy, categorically stated that the Cancer Health Fund has been moved. He sought bottleneck that some of our cancer patients are facing, because of there are so many things, so many problems that the Federal Ministry of Health are concerned with. So now that we have the government of the day established the National Institute for Cancer Research and Treatment to handle cancer activities in the country. Now, to ensure that the Institute has carried out its mandate and its function in line with the renewed hope agenda of the Mr. President, the Ahmed Aswaji Bola Tinubu, of alleviating the suffering, the Institute has already started working with 2 agencies to ensure a smoother and a hate-free model or modality through which those indigent patients can be identified out how to transfer the funds or radiotherapy services to this patient. Currently, we are on it and we are working on that. The legislature, that is National Assembly, they have in the Cancer Health Fund to double, so to add another cancer health fund. We have the childhood cancers, which are almost 80% curable. So after a very long discussion, we agreed to set up that budget line also to be managed by NICRA, so that any child that come up with cancer in the country can comfortably walk into the functional cancers that we have in the country. And a substantial amount is going to be channeled from the government for the treatment of that child. So that you see the problem of affordability and access to this treatment by these children and their parents is going to be remarkably or markedly a very applaudable. I've visited twice budget office, and I can assure you the current DG budget is working insidiously to make sure that childhood cancer health is maintained on the budget line of the National Health Insurance Scheme, along with that of the adults, that is the cancer health fund. So these are two good things that are coming as actually pronounced by Dr. Tunji Alausa, the State Minister for Health and Social Welfare.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much of children with cancer recognize, and those of us that watch this are able to share this information and stop parents from running all around believing what they shouldn't when they can just easily access. We will be coming back soon to continue this. Let's now start to talk about the cervical cancer. How has the rollout started off? So let me be very specific. Started off in October during the International Cancer Week. Was when we did the with this rollout.
Among one out of all the successes that the country under the current dispensation was able to achieve, the Honorable Minister for Health and Social Economy, Dr. Ali Pate, has made it clearly that the Federal Ministry of Health, under his watch, is not going to let any stone unturned in the area of actually taking well care of, which is known to prevent in totality the risks of the vaccine preventable cancers that we have because the papillomavirus. So it was clearly, and since the launching of that vaccine by our mother, Senator Remi Tinubu, and the First Lady of Nigeria, there was a massive rollout of the vaccine to 17 countries in 2 phases. Involved, or it's going to be included wherever you need it, right from the primary, secondary, and tertiary healthcare. You can just go, and your children sexually to those viruses. So if we can catch them young and immunize them, give them that immunity against that human papilloma vaccine, or the vaccine can completely wipe out the viruses that they are going to contact during their. So you can see it confers. If you look at what is happening in the country, cervical cancer is one of the cancers that increase the morbidity and mortality of cancer currently in the country. At this year 2023, it is not acceptable that a vaccine that is prevented, that can prevent a vaccine preventable disease like cervical cancer is still threatening the life of individuals, younger women population in the country. So rolling out this vaccine is actually a great achievement, a great success. This vaccine, if it has anything, any problem regarding the fertility that people are going and moving around, it wouldn't have passed through our regulatory agencies that are currently working insidiously to chemicals within them. Before this drug is launched, it passes through NAFDAC. And you know it is the responsibility of the NAFDAC to actually pass all their the food and drug contents that are coming into the country for consumption to pass through their research lab. Ours is to call on our people that please allow your girl child to be for the elimination of cervical cancer in the family. One of the key ways of achieving that by 2030 is by taking this vaccine, by conferring or by giving our children, girl child, the immunity. HPV vaccines. You know, we have vaginal warfare, and because the government of the day had to spend the quantity we currently have will not extend to reach out to the male population that we have, because even men is what we have, and the male population that we have, because even men is what we have, and this is considering the scourge, morbidity and mortality of cancer, and the projections that by the year 2030, that the current come up within the low and middle income countries. So this is one of the major ways that the government of the day, the government of the country, is taking it in the country.
Thank you, Prof, for that, children. So all these myths, there's never a perfect 100%, but at least give yourself a fighting chance. So those who are afraid of taking the vaccine, please take the vaccine. It is best for you, and people like me are telling you, we know what it is to have cancer. It's not a nice journey, and it's more expensive than the vaccine. All right, so just before we end, I'm going to ask you one question. If I was to look for a specific, you see, a lot of people, I always try to make people understand that it would be a lot easier to help this campaign.
Okay. I will actually want the cancer advocates that we have in the country to reach out to the nook and crannies of the country's vaccines and to demystify the myths that which are very much erroneous, to educate them that your girls took the vaccines and one has given birth. There are many of children, and we shouldn't even forget what happened during the COVID-19. And here we are. I took it like how many years? I've seen 2 or 3 of my birthdays. So you see, it's reach out to the malams, the pastors, the rural heads, all the people, the key stakeholders in this to educate them on the importance of this vaccine and demystify all the erroneous beliefs that the people, the information that has been propagating currently in the country. So once they have done that, they have actually reduced our work. That is, to protect the girl child.
Thank you for your time this afternoon. Together we fight, together we win. I keep saying this to those out there. I want to thank our thank you for joining us. To all of you out there, you can find us on our social media handles. And Prof, can you tell Micrat to tag us so that we can tag you with us and then people can see it? Messages are clear. It's one voice we're speaking from. Thank you all viewers for being with us. You can follow us on our Instagram, social media, any of them. Threads, YouTube, LinkedIn, you'll find us there. Just please save your life, share information, make sure that you are part of this drive. And to Prof, we want to say thank you very much for your time.
Take care.
Have a lovely weekend. Thank you.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent.
Need tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back.
He's a consummate communication expert. Started a very brilliant career in broadcasting, moved on to what I would call diplomacy. Right? Diplomacy with quotes. Yeah. Now the quotes were you really in? Because most of those who are younger than him call him Epa. He's a Benin man to the core. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you. Your days in broadcasting, when you...
I remember that I more or less went back to journalism now, after retiring from every other thing I've done.
Yes.
It was special.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I was lucky, I think. I was recruited by Radio Nigeria in 1978. But I wasn't really based inside Radio Nigeria Broadcasting House all the time. A lot of the time I was posted to run, in different places. First at the airport, correspondent, and then State House, then the Foreign Ministry and all that, and the diplomatic system.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time I was out of BH. But there was time I also spent on the desk that came for me then.
Yes.
And I still enjoy it. It still seems to rub off my family, my kids.
Yes.
My daughter studied mass communication and media technology too.
Oh, good.
In fact, she made a first class.
Lovely.
And she's running her own show. My son works for a TV station right now. He didn't study communication, studied sociology, but from school, he developed interest in using his voice. He has a very deep voice.
Okay.
So
it's a good voiceover artist.
Voiceover and all that.
Yes.
And then they saw him and they took him and said, man, come and be with us.
Yeah, so, the beauty of journalism or even broadcasting, it doesn't go away from you.
Part of you.
Yes.
Even at home,
correspondence reports and yes. Yes.
Once, I did a stint with VOA, Voice of America, for a while. And one of those reports was heard by a director of Voice of America who was traveling through West Africa. I think it was in Togo or Benin. But he meant that the voice was too low.
It was too low, yes.
So now I can speak. That's one of the things we learned those days.
Yes.
But there are people, it's natural, so to speak.
It is.
But he was...
To check anything, you need to go into a thesaurus and read. They will be holding their phones and they don't even use it.
You know what it was to file a report those days?
Oh, yes.
And you send it. You want to spell Abeokuta. Yeah. That's a radio system that the man is writing.
Yes.
But these days,
sure.
We feel, and we use teleprinter.
Yes.
You have to type the.
You type it there, yes.
Yes. There was no email, no fax, nothing.
Yeah.
There was no cable TV.
None. Talk about appliances or implements for.
If you're a reporter and you have a midget.
Yes.
Oh, you are.
Before the midget came the UR. Now you carry.
Remember that? Remember that?
Yes, that you carry. It's so sharp. The recording has helped us in terms of performance.
Oh, yes. I mean, things are easier. Technology has helped the world in every way.
Yes.
In banking, in whatever business you are involved in, oil and gas, in broadcasting. But many people
I believe that too.
There will still be, and now make things easier for the world to run. And I think we should all, key into it. There's nobody who should still say he's a dinosaur, he's an ancestor, and that he can't learn.
You move on. Yeah. Now, when you left?
Well, at the time, I was back in Broadcasting House after having, served in the Foreign Ministry. I was seconded, used to the different embassies, doing a lot of... It was a beautiful program, but for some other than coming to look at what somebody else had covered, I just thought I had gotten, so you get to meet the different and information for officer houses, experts who know about trade, connecting Canadian businessmen with Nigerian businessmen. Canadian companies want to do business in Nigeria, Canada too. We between those countries and Nigeria and them, and it was a beautiful time. I streamed what I was getting from radio. I was earning about 800, equivalent of 1,000 naira. I decided that first go for the second movie as cars were there, the color.
Yeah, this is.
And it was 4 naira to fill the tank. So I would drive them from work.
Yes, and the stress was much reduced.
Of course, it was. Well, there was this stress. You want to. There was this stress. You want to make more.
Yes.
Because I make more.
Yes.
Because when I was a high commissioner, we have one young man who's working. Obviously, it wasn't.
Yeah, there was some conflict. Of course.
I don't know if they still do it these days. Anybody to this?
Yes, multiple streams.
One cop.
I even think some of these young people can teach us it. In your stint in the terms of
interest is key to every country. Country is going to do anything for you if it does not. They will give us aid and all. I'm sure big infrastructure.
So they must possess.
So those we should know too. We should also apply it from play your own part. You know, there's a lot of things we need to learn from it. But I was working for the Canadians.
Yes.
You know, the first. Remember the name Ben Johnson?
Yeah.
Ben Johnson, Angela Isayenko was a woman, and then the drug thing came.
Yeah.
He hit us because we have pushed him. You know, so there are also times when programs to ensure that because issues management. You know. We don't do it much in our. Get some specialists to check what would be the reaction. But nobody rise of petroleum, the issue that will arise from
it, yes.
But if we invade Iraq today, well, that government has not thought about what will happen in our business system, even in our private system. You know, if you develop personal governance rules for yourself,
yes,
or something will happen that will put you outside at so time, or you come from a flight from Abuja for 2 p.m. and it moves to 7 p.m., 8 p.m. What are you going to do? You are going to cancel the flight. You need to put it into our own system.
But trying to put it into our system would lead to superior argument. Many times, the leadership has not or doesn't portray the willingness
on what the backlash or if whatever the reason for that you will not submit to superior or size to that. So we will need to. They will tell lies.
The internet doesn't forget.
The guy puts it up.
Yes. So now Nigeria going in terms of, and 3, the older generation setting a good example.
Let me talk about broadcasting.
Yes.
You know, it's like I'm sure how much training is being done now before people are recruited.
Put on the air, yes.
The way it looks like, guys just come and say they are on-air personalities and just go rapping. But I know there are a couple of stations,
yes,
and you have read it, and you're not going to go there and stumble. But it doesn't happen that way, obviously, these days. But broadcasting is a profession where you can't hide. If you make a mistake,
everybody sees
it, and it's left for you to. A studio, you can, and I doesn't even need to come, but you can even these days from there, and it's going to be involved in. Nobody will go to the bank. Nobody should come into broadcasting with services like human resources and engineering and all that.
Yes, it's core
training. But I think pastors, associations and guilds to ensure that the younger generation in the information you are trying to pass.
Okay. Okay, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll go back to as far as even the younger generation understanding the concept of promoting national things. Yeah. Please stay tuned.
Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region, How can the Niger Delta probes dip in search of solutions?
Egboigbe asked my guest, I asked because where do you think we are going, our country, especially with so many people of them traveling? Yeah. Yes.
The truth is that we made the wrong statement with our chances and our lives. Sometimes you see cartoons and banker. Some want to be politicians. They want to be assembly member or minister.
Yeah, even some extreme ones will say, I want to be an armed robber.
Yes, because some want to be petrol station attendant.
Yes.
Like
it's
what
too high.
everybody sees. If you were to take a Mercedes Benz to your dad those days and he'll ask you, where did you get it? These days, the dads will be jumping.
Yeah.
You know, I hear that they are Yahoo boys and the mothers are saying it's gone so low car, you don't have a big house or big houses, you haven't mass.
Yes.
We have not set the right example for them. Ask when these people, these young, not just because the young man has bought you a nice car, do you need it for?
Yeah.
But that wasn't an issue when we were growing up. If you had a car, you had a car.
Yeah.
And you just move on. If you want to change it, it's a different thing. And sell it that same day and buy another one. But no. And we the work to do to mentor and tell them. I know some young people who want to do it.
In fact, that's the next thing they say is, I don't have time. I just want to be at home. What would you recommend for someone to do?
I don't know how those people do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I left radio in 87.
Yeah.
I left the Canadian system in 95. I left UBA in 2005. From what time will you have to say yourself to provide time for when you can mentor people? Because you have to give back. I'm sure the society has given to you
so
during
much.
the time you are saying, because that time, I mean, at least I still said, what have you controlled the society? Is it among these kids who look up to me, have I played a major role? I've been in the blind community for the same thing. Technology has also made things easier to see. It's not saying, but I mean, you can run back to the blind center on their own. They write, as long as they have their guide cane, you know, guide cane you played to ensure that those people who need assistance, and they need to learn from where you are coming from. How can we make our things are going to get worse before they get better? From all indications. So you and I that are on the street will be the one that will be consumed when anything is going to happen. So the earlier we start doing something to help these young people, the better.
Let's talk a bit of politics. Young people haven't motivated them to go in there. It's not all of them that are really...
Practically everybody who is going into it is going... Someone is going to serve. That politicians are recycling this in their life. They have been government picking from the beginning. Local government, state government.
Yes.
House of Reps, Senate on it. But you see, in the U.S. system that we copy, the man who is he's not recycling. He has a mortgage, he's paying, you know, same here. Because when people say they are sharing for Christmas, you know, whatever that email contains.
Is also key. They wrongly reported because nobody actually took up constituency.
I do not want to get into the issue of pardon or not. I have not covered National Assembly as a journalist. Those days I did not, and they pass. Some people come to see them after. To say,
the committee member. Yeah, this is for the committee and all that.
You know, that kind of thing.
Yes.
I mean, it means that if needed, there will be nothing to share with.
Because, like you said, monetization of politics is real.
It cannot succeed, except he has somebody bankrolling him. He probably is expecting some
returns.
Back, you know, in terms of contract, in terms of
patronage.
Because usually, even when the politicians, they seem to have intermarriages, and it would be difficult for an easy going out and say, I want to contest against this person. Contesting election from the party. Then say,
no. That's not. It's not been approved.
Yes,
I think
fees to pay, take a form, expressing, and you started working for 2-3 years, and that somebody got it.
Somebody got it for him. Ogie Eboigwe. Stay tuned. We're still with Ogie Eboigwe. You're somebody who loves to write.
I do. So, if you do not write, but I also write, and when you have ideas,
need to write.
Okay,
now your latest book is called, and you wrote it in Pidgin?
No, a blog for about 5 years. The title of the name of the URL is epa.com.ng.
Okay.
Uses my experience to analyze different issues that we use the version of articles. There are different segments.
How much is one book? Okay.
Well, we had the long versions. We haven't used to print.
20. Yes, you're older than me. You're 8 years older than me.
I feel like 30. But I mean, I don't think, people say age is just 70 and all that. 70 years.
Hey, you're an old man now.
So, but at least, I wish to feel that I'm 30, 40. Except that sometimes when you get home at the end of the day, you need something.
At his best for coming. I'll call you again, though. Okay, Eboigwe. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
Thanks.
Bagozie. She had been waiting eagerly for me. Thus, I had to make to do with what I had before I was too old and educated to catch a decent man. Maybe I made a mistake by letting your father send you to invitation between me and my brothers. Today it's Polly. My grandmother used to say, only a foolish rat dances with the lizard in the rain. You better not bring just a certificate. Adugo has that young man who's undo. Even Chinelo has somebody. Mama had been born in a time when education had been a luxury, if not a waste, for a girl child. But my grandmother had been a troublemaker. She insisted her husband send all their daughters. I had other ambitions, desires she did not understand, to be something other than a wife. I hope telling Mama about Gozie. Tired of Mama telling me every time the daughter of someone we knew got engaged or married, and as Shrebi, they were all planned to wear, saying, "Don't worry, God will do your own." My name is Iwanose Odafen. Growing up, my parents were very big on reading, and my dad would buy me a lot of books. You know, my mom made us read academically, like she would always make sure you had to. But then my dad would also like buy me Charles Dickens, just like a lot of the classics. My dad made me read them, and I just loved reading. And it got to a point that I started disturbing him to buy me books, and then he would we had these book shopping days where we'd go shopping for books together. And once I finished reading the books after a while, because I've always loved reading, like I explained to you, it all started in 2015 when a friend was going through a very difficult situation, repeating a lot of societal talk. And I was really upset by this, and I remember I told him, this friend of mine, I was like, I'm going to write about this. And he was like, can you go ahead now, write it? And it's obviously, because something I was so at school, but I'd never written like a novel, so it was very in between jobs. I was applying for a job. And I was like, I want to write about this thing. I was really bothered by it, and I just started. Asking about writing, you don't get better. It's what I eat peace. And that's how I really discovered my love for writing. Oh yes, definitely. So I studied accounting, MBA, everyone around was actually a fellow writer that wanted to write. And just to be honest, when you actually have to workshop each other's works and just reading and being inspired. So a lot of the tutors had a draft for my novel then, and I was that particular session I was in. She said something around, sometimes you're writing and then your simple advice to a writer, but then it clicked that was what was wrong with me. It was a joy in my own voice. I had to find my own writing voice. But it was a project I was writing, but also about myself, because several times I had to interrogate about my own experiences to reflect them, because I really wanted the novel to be a true reflection of society. I'm comfortable with this. Why have you accepted certain things as normal? To give up when you're writing as a writer, and then I kept going back. The first draft took me about 2.5 years. Yes, so I started writing the first draft in February 2016. I had a draft by September 2018. But then I had to keep editing. And I had something close to what is published now by 2020. Yeah, so it was a long process. Okay, so it was, again, publishing. I think a lot of people don't really understand how the publishing process, so generally published in the UK, and to do that I had to query a lot of agents. I got a lot of no's. I got over 50 no's, and from the draft I had, and that's kind of what spurred me to keep editing my draft. I wrote my entire draft in 3 points. I knew I was supposed to this can go out, and I started. I think accepting that you're going to be rejected is the first step. This mindset, but then that's the thing, you're going to be rejected, but then it's not stopping your work. Just keep writing, because the thing about writing is it's about reading more. It's about also finding works that connect with your writing voice, works that are never stopping. You will get no's. Sorry, so many times. There are times I paused writing for months. It will come, but then it's about not stopping there, refusing to allow that be the end, and just believing and having insane and to just not stop.
It is members of the National Assembly.
On the button, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No end.
And the heat of the moment. And another thing for them to still be able to when.
Members of the National Assembly are
need tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be able to when push comes to shove.
A 1 million man march as part of the End Bad Governance protest. 2 venues at Port District Stadium after the City Gate and the Eagle AM. The protesters were displayed protests which kick-started on August 1st, turned an attack on motorists among resorted to carrying and flying foreign nations. The Armed Forces of Nigeria and other security agencies, as well as the organized Plateau State government, has furthered. In a statement signed by Gyang Bered, says the decision was authorized by His Excellency Governor Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang following thorough consultation with security agencies, while praising with security agencies to ensure the safety. Local government secretariat during the End Bad Governance protest caused property destruction, warning that anyone arrested again would face the full wrath of the law. He downs.
So it would appear we have to go, and we will do it because it is the...
While the Kaduna State Security Council has issued a stern warning to criminal elements disguising as protesters, stating that they will not be spared and recognize citizens' fundamental rights to freedom of expression, its agenda to run unchecked activities to the security operations room, are demanding for justice over alleged killing of their husband. Her husband was not part of the protest, was shot dead.
Sister, they are dying. They cannot go to school. And this condition we are in tension of life now. He's already
into this issue. For government to...
In Kaduna expressed concern over the violent protests in northern Nigeria, stated to the teeming youth.
And take over. What is going to be the future of the North? Boko Haram people, infiltrate them. What next is going to be the future? or we want appointment